All right, all set.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
See you later.
All right, bye. Hi, Lynn.
Hi. Wanted to make sure I could sign in. I wasn't sure if I could or not, but I'm there.
All right, awesome. I'm gonna turn off my camera. WillieNet starts recording early, so I'm gonna turn off my camera for a little bit.
I think I will also. Thanks.
All right.
Hey, Christina.
Hello. We are recording, just so you know.
How are you?
I'm okay.
Good. Good. This is one of those days I need about 8 more hours tacked on to today to get to everything, but
Totally get
well,
I feel like so many of them are like that these days.
that you're spot on right there. That is the truth. That is the truth. I think I saw Kiva out golfing with her gym class this week.
Really?
Yeah, yeah.
She didn't mention that. That's funny.
Yeah, she might have some potential there. She did not take a divot the size of a loaf of bread like I watched one of her classmates do. So,
Well, I think you're supposed to take divots. It depends
Okay.
on, yeah,
All
as long as you hit the ball, that's, I mean, really you're hitting the ground. That's what the golf
All right.
course says.
I was just glad Brandon Krause wasn't around. He would have mourned those 300 blades of grass that comprised that divot. All right. Hey, Lynn. Hi, Patrick. Hey, Joe.
Hi, Jake.
Thank you all for joining tonight. Appreciate it.
Where's my crew?
Yeah, really. Our guests are here. Destiny's here. Cindy and Jake are here. I know
This is Steve. I'm here on the phone.
Well, I was going to say, I know Steve is seconds away from being on. So,
No, this is. Can you hear me?
yep.
This
We
is
can
Steve.
hear you.
Can you hear me? Okay. Yep.
Yeah, we got you, Steve.
Sally, the game is not going well.
Hi, Jose.
Everyone.
Hi, Patrick. And Curtis, how are you?
How's it going?
Good. So, Buffalo Bills. Is this a regular season opener tonight? Is this
I don't know much about it, but I believe it is the regular season opener at 8:20 p.m.
Yeah.
Curtis is our
it's the-
timekeeper. Curtis is
Yeah.
the official timekeeper tonight. He's gonna try to shorten this up.
Yeah, it's the Buffalo Bills, Curtis, Western New York, in case you've never, in case you're not.
Yeah. I hear they circle the wagons.
Hey, Joya.
Good evening. Nice to be back with everyone.
Right
Yeah.
on.
Hi, Julia.
Been a long time, Lynn. Nice to see you.
I know. Nice seeing you too.
All right, so we are waiting for Carrie, and you're waiting for Nolan, Jake?
Yep. Yeah. Is Ursula joining tonight?
Ursula is not joining tonight.
Oh, okay, that's what I thought. She was able to scramble and get to the finance subcommittee meeting, which was kind of her.
There's Carrie. Hi, Carrie.
Hey.
So Jake, do you want me to just get started? Or do you want me to wait?
I think we should just go ahead. I'll
Okay.
reach out to Nolan. Sometimes his internet at home is but I think we should get started.
Okay, great. I would like to call the Mount Greylock Regional School District School Committee to order. It is Thursday, September 8th, 2022, and it is 6:01 p.m. We are meeting remotely via Zoom. And the meeting will be broadcast on WillieNet TV channel 1302 in Williamstown, and it will be posted on the Mount Greylock Regional School District YouTube page within 24 hours of the meeting and also on willienet.org. At Mount Greylock Regional School District, our mission is to create a community of learners working together in a safe and challenging learning environment that encourages restorative-based processes, respect, inclusive diversity, courtesy, integrity, and responsibility through high expectations and cooperation, resulting in lifelong learning and personal growth. Next up on our agenda is public comment. We do not have anyone signed up for public comment through email or phone. And I'm looking to see if we have any members of the public currently participating.
Christina, do you want to call the roll while you're looking?
Oh yeah, I'm sorry, I skipped over that. If the school committee could please say their name, we will call the roll.
Bowen here.
Conry here.
Constantine here.
Elfenbein here.
Green here.
Miller here.
Thank you. And Ursula is absent. Okay, my apologies. Anyone out there in the public wanting to make public comment? I don't see anyone. Does any of the committee see anybody who's not a part of the district on this call? Okay, so moving on to the approval of minutes. I would like to make a motion to approve the August 11th, 2022 minutes.
Second.
Curtis seconds. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Bowen abstain because I missed it.
Okay, Conry, aye.
Constantine abstain.
Elfenbein abstain.
Green eye.
Miller, I.
We have 3 abstentions and 3 ayes. No, how does that work, Carrie? Is that enough for approval, or do we need to? We had a very low attendance on our last meeting.
Yeah, there were only 4 of us present and one of them is not here tonight. I don't know. Sorry.
Okay, well,
Julia may want to change her vote.
That
You
wasn't
can
what I was.
vote, you can vote to approve even if you weren't there. You just can't move the minutes. So that's the only.
Okay. And since 3 of you are moving to approve the vote, I would, 3 of you are voting in favor who were there. I will change my vote.
okay, so thank you. Now that motion passes. Okay, moving on to our next.
Can I quickly say something?
Yes.
We should probably just clarify with legal, this is not controversial, but just in the future, if 303 is enough to pass something.
Yeah, I agree. We can definitely check on that.
Yep. I think it passes, but
Okay.
it's safer. So thank you, Julia.
Okay, so the next item on our agenda is the principal updates. And first under that item is Lynn Jordan's school trip to Puerto Rico application.
Yes, I don't know if I'm supposed to say anything about it. I was just told to be here tonight to talk about it if I need to.
So does anybody have any questions for Lynn about the application or the trip itself?
Do you want to
Julia,
give us?
it looks like you have a question, Julia.
Yeah, sorry. I didn't look back at the previous packet. And I know it's not in this packet. So I wonder, I really apologize. I'm clearly not as prepared as I should be, but I wonder if maybe Lynn could give us the top line or the top few lines about the trip.
Certainly. So I've been doing trips now. Well, this will be my 4th trip with the school. I've been to the national parks, to Canadian Rockies. This year we went to Costa Rica, and next year we're planning on going to Puerto Rico. It's open to anyone from 8th through 11th grade, so that it'll be at the end of the year and they'll be moving on into it's after school ends. So it's, I always book it 3 or 4 days after we have on the school calendar when school ends, so that we don't cut into any school time. Typically, I've only missed 1 day, my very first trip, when I first started it, but after that, it's been fine. I typically have 15 to 20 kids. This year I had 30 kids come. Right now I have 20 kids signed up to go to Puerto Rico. Yeah. And they're fitness wellness trips, so we do a lot of activities. We do hiking and kayaking and horseback riding and those kind of things.
And what's the adult to student ratio?
So if it's out of the country, it's usually 10 to 1. If it's in country, I can make it anywhere from 6 to 1 all the way up to, or out of the country, I'm sorry, out of the country is 6 to 1. In country, no, the opposite way, 10 to 1. In country is 6 to 1 all the way up to 10 to 1. So right now I have it at 8 to 1. And typically I have 1 or 2 parents that also sign up. So they are more than willing to jump in and be chaperones also.
Jose.
Yes.
Lynn, we've never met, but I've got a 7th grader who wishes he was in 8th grade. And I've heard amazing things about the Costa Rica trip, just absolutely amazing things. So I just wanted to clarify, I think, to Christina and Jake, what exactly the school committee is doing right now. We're approving the proposal for this trip to run this upcoming summer. And then these are questions. I always hear Julia's voice when I have these questions in my head about, and we, Jake and Joe, have worked with Lynn to cover our, cover all the bases in terms of health and safety, COVID, contingencies, you name it. You feel comfortable with the plan that we have in place?
Yeah, we would not have brought this forward. Lynn is an experienced travel coordinator and student travel coordinator and chaperone. And, like anything, like any trip or really anything that we plan this far out, it will be subject to what the state of the world is at that point. But, but I am very comfortable with this trip going forward in Lynn's hands.
This trip was canceled once already. So we were originally going to Puerto Rico and they actually had the hurricane the year we were going to go. So they canceled that one. Then we decided to go to Costa Rica. It was postponed again. So we're finally back on track.
Julia?
Just curious about the financial end of this and how students pay for it, and if there are opportunities for all students to attend, even if they don't have families with means.
So it is a family, they have to come up with the funds for it. We do run, in the past, I've run fundraisers. I've had like dances, we have cube tournaments, and it cuts the costs a little bit and not a ton. I try to pick trips that are lower in cost so that more people can go. The companies that I've dealt with so far all have payment plans. So that's why I like to book, 2 years in advance so people can start paying it off if they want to go, and it doesn't hurt as much.
Mm-hmm. And again, apologies, what's the total price point
So this one is around $2,400. Last year's was $2,600.
Mm-hmm.
So they're typically right around there. Yeah. And I know Katie Pratt has come with me in the past. We went to Barcelona together to work with a company to find out what they offer so that we can offer more opportunities to our students. They have some really good STEM trips and they have some really good middle school trips. So in the future, we're hoping to separate them and have a middle school trip in country and an international trip for the high schoolers.
The only thing I'd like to say is thank you, Lynn. This is a ton of legwork and an amazing service to our students. And so I hear that planning and I hear that thoughtfulness around making sure this is a good opportunity and a good learning opportunity for our students. So I just want to say thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. I've enjoyed it thoroughly. It's been awesome. Yeah.
Would somebody like to make a motion to approve the school trip to Puerto Rico?
So moved.
Curtis moves. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Julia seconds. Any further discussion? One thing I want to note, it is not financially beneficial to me, but my child is going on this trip. So if anyone is uncomfortable with me voting, I will abstain. But if you're fine, then I will vote.
I'm only comfortable, Christina, if I can go on this trip too. That's
It's $2,700 for adults, just so you know. You're more than welcome to come.
And 3,000 for you, Jose.
'Cause I think you should do a little scouting, a little legwork of your own, just to make sure that, you know, this is something your kids will do in the future. Good reason to chaperone now.
Okay, any further discussion? All in favor?
Bowen, I.
Conry, aye.
Constantine, I.
Elfenbein, aye.
Green eye.
Miller, aye.
Thank you. That motion passes. Thank you, Lynn.
Well, thank you so much, all of you, for approving this. And I'm going to log off. Thanks.
Thank you. Okay, so next up on the agenda is school handbooks and start of school update. And Lanesboro Elementary School is first on the list, so I will turn it over to Nolan Pratt.
So Nolan, I'm going to just jump in very quickly and say under this agenda item is handbooks and back to school update. So each of our principals is going to provide a up to school update or a back to school update. I would just briefly interject that, you know, a lot of work went into the handbooks once again to just do cleanup, to make sure that they're representing the schools in the district the way that we want to represent ourselves to the families that we serve. And they have been updated with policy changes that have been made and adopted between the last handbook at this time last year and this time this year. So just wanted to interject that so the principals can really focus on their very exciting and very successful back to school openings. So thank you, Nolan. Thank you for allowing me to interrupt there.
Okay, can I just ask real quick, are the handbooks on each of the school websites? Are they accessible to the school communities from the websites and to the public?
I'm looking at Jake's Nolan. It's a good question. Is in Nolan and Cindy? Yeah.
The newest one is not up yet. I thought it needed to go through this meeting first. Now that we don't have to present it, it'll be up tomorrow.
Thank you, Carrie.
I think ours is, Carrie. I want to say yes, but I'm going to double check it right now just to make sure. It should be.
Should I dive
Nolan, I think you can dive in and
right.
Jake can catch us up on that when he goes. Thanks.
Good evening, everyone. I hope you all had a fantastic summer. So start of school year 22-23. It's been great the first 5 days. Our enrollment as of today is 231 students. That is up from 207 on October 1st of last year. We brought on Ken Aubin as our grade 6 ELA teacher. So Monday before school started, we had our first ever school-wide Popsicle social. It was awesome to have all the families back at the school. They weren't quite popsicles, they were some kind of push pop, but they weren't the popsicles that we expected to see. All the kids loved them, even little ones, big ones. We had some eighth graders come back. It was a great event, which all shifted down to the playground where kids were playing, running, and families were meeting teachers, et cetera, et cetera. So a huge shout out to the PTO for creating such a fantastic event. So then we had the start of school. So last Wednesday, students came hustling into our immaculate building. The summer is a quiet time for schools, but it is a loud time for custodians. Our custodians put in hours over the summer just to make sure that the building was ready for students on day one. So a huge shout out to the custodian crew and Rob Lanook. They also took time to prepare the building and do some fire safety upgrades with doors, et cetera, et cetera. Thank you to all of our teachers and paraprofessionals for the work they did to create a welcoming environment for our class, for our students. And then yesterday was a huge day for Lanesboro Elementary School. We started our after-school care program, which I think is the first time in 5 years that we had an after-school care program. We had 21 students yesterday, and this evening we had 28 students in attendance. Based on feedback, we expect that number to continue to grow over the next coming weeks. Coming up, we have an assembly next Friday. Our first assembly is always about what it means to be a Wyvern, courageous, responsible, and respectful. So we spend an entire 40 minutes going through the traits and then talking about what it takes to win Wyvern of the Week. And then also coming up September 20th, 5 to 6:30 is the Lanesboro Open House. And that'll be the first open house in a couple of years and the second event that invites all the families back into the building. So I'm really excited for that. What questions do you have for me? Curtis.
Longtime listener, first time caller. I was wondering what you've seen in this first week in terms of absence amongst students and amongst staff, and if you've seen any unusual or disproportionate numbers in the first week.
Nothing unusual. Staff, we haven't had anyone sick. We have people who have doctor's appointments because doctor's appointments are impossible to get. But nothing unusual in terms of absences. That's a great question.
Great, thank you.
Jake, do you have a question?
I don't have a question, but I would like to publicly thank you for lots and lots and lots of work to get the Lanesboro Elementary School aftercare program from idea phase last year. I believe I think this might have been something your school council put forward in your improvement plan as something that they really wanted seriously considered. And I know the amount of work you did to look into a partnership with a third party to provide these services. You heard back from the families you serve that was just really did not seem like an affordable, doable option for many of them. So you went back to the drawing board, you and your team at Lanesboro. And so I just want to say publicly, this brings great parity between the two elementary schools. Thanks to the Williamstown Youth Center, there's amazing opportunities there that are affordable and available to families in Williamstown. Now Lanesboro, thanks to the school, has similarly affordable and wonderful opportunities. And so thank you to you for doing the work to make this a reality. And thank you to the many staff. We were talking informally at the finance subcommittee meeting. There's occasionally a story about how hard it is to staff summer school during COVID and sort of as COVID progresses into post-COVID, and how finding coaches and finding people to do after school activities is really difficult. Credit to the people that do the work in this district. We have not found it difficult. And so very grateful to you for making this work. Very, very grateful to Chris Hocking for stepping in to serve as the director, and very grateful to the number of paraprofessionals who stepped up to serve the kids that they love and take care of and care about during the day for another few hours after school. So well done. This is a big deal in the community, and it's a big deal to the district, and we're all very grateful.
Jose, I see your hand up.
Thanks, Nolan. This is going to be, you're going to be sick of me asking this question I'm about to ask, but you probably know that rosaries are being prayed right now for the Lanesboro Elementary School boilers. So far so good on the boiler front. I'm praying.
And I can actually jump in. I'll be providing an update on that later tonight.
Okay, thank you, Joe.
Yeah.
So far so good, I hope.
We have hot water. All right, I don't know who is next, but I'll pass it off to you. I think it's Jake probably, if it's alphabetical.
No, so next up is Williamstown Elementary School. So we get to turn it over to Cindy Sheehy.
Thanks, but I don't get to go last this time, everybody. Christina, could I share my screen?
Yes, you can. I think you can. Let's see what I can do here. There you go.
Okay, so in true elementary school fashion, what better way than to flood you with a lot of cute and a lot of pictures. So hopefully it will load in just a minute. My first gigantic shout out to my amazing assistant principal who is on the call right now. If you know anything about Travis, Travis is truly gifted in all things technology, among other things. And Travis is amazing at me saying, hey, I want to take all this stuff and like put it in a slideshow. And Travis in a matter of minutes can come up with something better than I would have spent hours doing. So Travis gets massive credit for sitting with me to create this, but huge shout out to him. The beginning of the year has been incredible for us. I think, you know, I feel like we continue to use that word normal. I don't know what normal is anymore, but this felt a lot closer to being able to connect with our kids and our families this year. So we're grateful for that. Much like Nolan said, shout outs to the staff, shout outs to our building and grounds crew. We were pretty much up to the minute trying to get the building ready, make sure our spaces were clear, make sure we had a beautiful space to welcome our students. And they worked really tirelessly. Travis and I were able to meet with our B&G staff yesterday to really continue to echo the message that we could not do what we do without them. And I think that's important from a school community and the greater, community to know, because it's an incredible feat what they're asked to do on any given year. So I'm grateful for that. As we move ahead, you'll notice new staff in our building. We have a lot of new faces, which has been really invigorating to welcome new people to our building. Allison Zustra is a full-day preschool teacher. Hannah Lilac is a first grade teacher. We welcomed Mackenzie Viola and Callie Reinhardt as fourth grade teachers. Austin Richter as our new BCBA. Noah Oltman, who is serving as the multilingual teacher across the district currently. Krista Sprague as our school adjustment counselor. And then we also have additional paraprofessionals. So Wendy Gregory, Shannon Speed, Jen Harwood, Katie Broussard, Max Ree, Carrie Snyder, and Bonnie Clements. And while I recognize that everybody could have read the screen themselves, for me, it's really an important moment to give them a shout out. We are profoundly grateful to have new members on our staff. And, one of the most powerful things that is, worth mentioning is the people that you see on this screen were people that as they were interviewed in whatever capacity they were interviewing for, we left the interview saying, gosh, I wish I could just shout out, you're hired right now. And that is something that's really powerful. The people on this screen are people who are positive and motivating and inspiring and are going to bring more light to the children that they're around, which Travis and I are really excited about. I also want to mention another thing that has been really important is we've had the opportunity this year to create mentors within the district. And I know it's something Jake and Nolan and I are always working to see how we can make shared experiences across the district and how do we continue to get our people to have the opportunity to work together. And we're really fortunate this year that we have a lot of mentors, both at Mount Greylock and at Lanesboro, who are going to be mentoring some of the new people in my building. And we're really looking forward to that. It gives people a different perspective, but it also gives us another opportunity to collaborate and truly work towards that mission of being a singular district and working to support each other. Now the cute. All right, lots of little people. You have to see the cute people. A lot of happy kids on this first day. We prepared for school in the traditional ways, which is getting the building ready. But one of the things we were able to do was have kids back for an opening activity, much like what Nolan did with Popsicles. Williamstown does a watermelon welcome. I wish I could tell you there's incredible pictures, but Travis and I were serving up watermelon, so we didn't get a lot of pictures, but kids came out in droves, their family came out in droves to kind of kick off the beginning of school. And that was an incredible moment for us, definitely as a community. We are lucky, you know, our PTO helped us with watermelon welcome. The PTO also worked to get the community together to host a staff breakfast to welcome our staff back. And those are events, you know, we're continuing to hope to work together in an ongoing effort to build community, not just in our building, but to our greater school community and families. More cute because you should see it. And again, I think what always stands out to me is look how far we've come and look at our kids collaborating, look at our kids chatting, look at our kids playing and talking and coming back to school, which is something that I know that we're all really proud of. Quintessential Williamstown Elementary School bagpiper joined us for the first day of school. If you have never heard her, I invite you to check out the magic. I have a lot of videos, but she welcomed kids back. It was pretty impressive to watch her play and bring, you know, that kickoff of school. The next picture on the screen, worth mentioning, it's what I hope to be an annual event, which is I wanted to have a boohoo woohoo breakfast for our preschool and kindergarten families. As we try and return to community building and having people within our walls, Travis and I felt like it was really important to be able to bring some of our families and of our youngest students, many of whom who had not been in the building. And we felt like it was a great opportunity not only for them to physically meet Travis and I, but to meet each other and start to build and meet families and build community within, you know, a short amount of time. We had a really good turnout, and aside from it being an event we will obviously continue in the years that are coming forward, but also we are going to be hosting these kind of mini breakfast with different grade levels to allow parents to have the opportunity to meet each other, but also for parents to really have the opportunity to have time to meet Travis and I, ask questions, and also see the building. We often forget Williamstown had a really big influx of families, and this is the first year we had so many people come to us and say, hey, I've never been inside. And so the ability to bring people together, show them the magic that happens, that we know happens, was an amazing thing for us. More amazing. And then lastly, I'm going to show you a series of slides. If you have not been in our school lately, Travis and I would love for you to come in. We kind of did a Williamstown Elementary School takeover of all of this spaces and trying to see what do we want to create. And what we want to create is an environment where our students feel loved, our students feel safe, and our students feel supported. And we spent the better part of the summer trying to determine what's going to be our message. What do we want kids in this building and staff in this building to know from he and I every single day that they're here? And that led us to a lot of shopping on Etsy, a lot of shopping, buying decals that we have posted around school. Some of them are on the screen here. More of them, you'll notice the one with the mirror. There are affirmation stations all over this school now that have, you know, positive messaging. There's I am statements, a moment that we're going to be working with our students on to talk to them about who do you see when you look in this mirror, and how powerful it is to, even on the hardest day, take a minute and see what's incredible and see what's amazing that's happening for you. And it's been really good for us. I think it's something we've had people in the building, and it's something our kids are noticing and our staff is noticing, and that's exactly what we're hoping for. So again, we would welcome everybody to come in. It's definitely worth a look. And lastly, this is our takeover of our school logo. It has always been this incredible owl with a superhero cape. But as we look towards positive messaging and affirmations and what do we want every single person who comes in our doors to feel, and it had the update of the words around the outside of our logo. So we want people to know you're loved, you're worthy, you're capable, you're important, you're kind, you're strong. And once this was made, it sort of morphed from like this really cool graphic into an alarming amount of stickers that we purchased, followed by a 5-foot gigantic floor decal that now welcomes our kids and our staff as they enter the building. So we couldn't be happier with this start of school. We're looking forward to the next months. We're looking forward to continue the momentum of building relationships with our kids, with our staff, with our families, to make it a place that, you know, students and families want to come, and we're grateful for that opportunity. Are there questions? Jose.
Hi, Cindy. Thank you again. Well, thank you to both you and Nolan, but for everything. The questions I've got have to do with what we look like as a Williamstown Elementary School. So Nolan shared with us what the student numbers are this year. What does it look like at Williamstown Elementary?
We are at 432 as of about 15 minutes ago. Trajectory wise, pretty similar to last year. We ended up the year last year at 434, so we're right around the same numbers. But I will always say we are continuing to have people enroll. So that number will probably change the next time I speak to you.
Thanks.
Curtis.
Hi, Cindy. Same attendance question I asked Nolan. Numbers looking normal?
Numbers so far have been looking normal. Interestingly enough, we've had a couple kids out this week, but nothing COVID related. And as far as staff, we've got one staff member out this week, so nothing worrisome to us right now.
Thank you.
Jake.
Thank you, Ms. Sheehy. I don't mean to intrude on the school committee folks' time, but I do encourage you to stop into Williamstown Elementary as you walk around. And I actually observed the same thing about Lanesboro. If a child in that school has any doubt that they are the entire reason why all of us are here, they are not seeing the things around them. So, you know, I really, every time I went into Williamstown Elementary this summer, which was almost daily, Cindy was up on a ladder, which, you know, my initial workplace safety concerns gave way to just, okay, what is going to go up here next? There was Travis, you know, unpeeling the applique and Cindy up putting it up. And I think it's important. And I appreciate and I thank you, Cindy, and thank you, Travis, and thank your team who put all of that together. It's important to put just right out there in the open where we are in relationship to our kids, and where we are is that they are the lone reason we're here, and we owe them the respect and the love and the care that they should walk in the door expecting, and they owe it to each other, and they owe it to themselves too. So thank you for just making that message absolutely crystal clear. And I do hope folks stop in to see it. Thanks.
Okay, thank you, Cindy. So next up on the agenda is Mount Greylock Regional School. So I will turn it over to Jake Schutz.
Okay, good evening, everybody. So briefly about the summer, we did host an amazing summer school and summer programming that Patrick's gonna explain and touch on in a little bit. I just wanted to highlight and mention that I think it's so important that we continue to offer both these specialized services and these in-person credit-based classes, specifically our English and America in the World summer school classes. So I look forward to continuing those classes in the future for our service, for our students. So moving on to where we are now, we have 2 weeks under our belts. Ad drop period is over. Our students and staff have settled in. We've done our fire drills. They've settled in their schedules and their routines for the most part. Our total enrollment is 552 students. That's ballpark where we have been for the past few years. That's 116 staff. We've hired 7 new staff. Jake is going to introduce those to you later on. In 7th grade, we have 103. So 100 is sort of like the the benchmark sort of number. There is no real benchmark. That's just sort of in our head what we sort of aim for. There's really no official reason why, but that's sort of a nice number. But at 7, we have 103. In our 7th grade, they finished a successful 2-day orientation with a very experienced 7th grade team. Our 8th grade is 109 strong. Our 9th grade is small but mighty. They're 73. Our 10th grade is 76. 11th grade 104. And our 12th grade, who have already started planning their prom, and I've already had to start pacing them a little bit, is at 84 this year. And similar to what Nolan and Cindy said, that changes from day to day, and I do expect that number to likely increase. As far as athletics and co-curricular, we've started in full. If you've been around the school after school at any time, I'm sure you've seen the cars and the people and students running around everywhere. These programs are important. We have some new advisors, we have some new clubs. Is a shout out to students, if you're interested in starting any new clubs, getting a new one in process right now. I'm not sure what it is, but a teacher passed me in the hall and said, hey, I'm working on a proposal with a bunch of students right now to start a new club. And I said, great. And I didn't even have time to see what it's all about. So exciting things always happening. So if you have an idea, don't be afraid to ask. You can ask any teacher, or go see Miss Von Holtz if you're wondering about how to get that working. So let's see, some upcoming theater experiences we have this month. We have 3 great experiences for our students coming up. Luckily, we're very fortunate where we live to be around so many local venues. This month, the Barrington Stage. Thank you, Julia and Dr. McCandless for pointing us in the right direction. Barrington Stage is offering student matinees of All of Me. It's a romantic comedy of a coming of age story. It's billed as a hilarious, candid portrayal of disability in class in present day America. It's something we think would be important for our students to see. So we have it scheduled for all of our 11th and 12th grade students to go and see that. It's great. It's just right down the road. It's a 2-hour performance. And so they'll be able to be back by lunchtime. Similarly, the 62 Center has some great offerings this month. Andreas is a play performed in Spanish about a Mexican indigenous people. It's going to be performed at Mount Greylock in our auditorium with a follow-on discussion. So it'll be like a 1 period plus time frame in-house field trip experience for students in our Spanish classes. And the third event will be, and this is just this month what we have planned out, also facilitated by 62 Center and the Williams Center at Mount Greylock, is Power, which is a traditional dance workshop. We've had various dance workshops, never this one before, but it'll be conducted with our wellness department with about 20 students that will have sign up. So that's pretty exciting. Now, just for a few reminders, open house is scheduled for the 21st. That's 7 to 9 for high school parents, 9:30 start for middle school parents. That'll all be sent out, regular email blast and on the website. And another reminder, late buses. We do have our 4:15 late bus Mondays and Thursdays. So every Monday and Thursday, there's a 4:15 late bus in addition to the 5:15 late bus that happens every day. And picture day is November 1st. So if you need to get your hair cut or shaved, remind your students to do that. So pending any questions, that is all I have for my updates.
Same attendance question, what numbers you're seeing?
Staff, normal, actually lower than normal. 1, 2 here and there. We did have one staff member get in an accident the other day, exiting into the road. She's okay. The police arrived very quickly. We had the staff, other staff, and I got there. We're the first ones there, and she is okay. But there was an accident, and it's a scary intersection. Anyway, she'll be out for a while. The ambulance came, but I wasn't thinking about mentioning that, but I think it just to put a plug in folks' ears that if you ever stand, well, I mean, I know you drive in and out of there, but it is a scary intersection. And so, yeah, I guess that was my plug for that. But as far as attendance goes, Curtis, nothing that draws my attention for students or staff.
Thank you.
I think Jose had his hand up first. Yes.
I have a gut feeling I might be asking the question that Carrie's going to ask, but Jake or Joe, I know relatively recently, there was a mass DOT study done. Is that correct, of that intersection? Do you know of any update from that study, or where we might be in any kind of process in terms of dealing with that intersection?
Sure, I'm happy to jump in here. We had a lengthy meeting with officials from the Mass Department of Transportation last year, really early in the spring, I believe, or late in the winter. The road as it stands right now, it meets the safety requirements that the DOT sets out for site distances, and if folks are following the speed limit and things are ideal and it's not foggy, thanks to Rob Winook and some other local staff, we do have a street light out there at least to illuminate the entrance. But there was some work that was being undertaken just to really give that intersection a look. I believe that was in the context of looking at the Five Corners intersection and examining, our relationship with that. I think at this point, we will wait to see what, if any, type of citation is put out by the Williamstown Police Department related to yesterday's incident, and based on what their findings are about the cause, we will be reaching back out to the Mass Department of Transportation to have another conversation with them about this.
So mine was not actually a question, but a comment. So Jake Schutz, in terms of the numbers in the classes, my understanding was that we kind of hoped for an average of about 100 per class so that we could offer the kind of curriculum that we were hoping to offer, a robust curriculum for each class, and that when the numbers drop sort of across the board, it starts to limit us in terms of which classes we can offer and how many singletons we have and that sort of thing. So I don't know if that's accurate, but that was always my understanding of why we were kind of hoping for that 100 number per class. Does that speak to you at all, or am I totally off base?
I'm not sure when the last time we had 100 per grade was, and what that would look like as far as seats and
right.
physical.
I mean, it's never been, when we applied to the building project, we had 585. So that's the highest I remember. So not to say that we would ever get 100 per, but that was sort of and when we talk about school choice, I think we always talk about that 100 number as being, we don't want to go over that too much, and it's okay if we edge up to it, because that's the kind of the goal number.
Carrie, I would suggest that your logic on that is absolutely correct. There's quite a bit of data out there that would suggest to run a run a robust 9 through 12, you need about 400 students, 9 through 12. When you start getting much smaller than that, you are limited as to what you can offer in what amount. And then, as you mentioned, you can avoid having a schedule that's full of singletons, which actually making the schedule work for students so they can be in the classes and the sections that they want to be in. As we approached, when we have done the October 1 report, so in October, November at the latest, when we report out on our full enrollment for this year, we will be discussing our strategy around school choice this year as it impacts the elementary schools in the here and now, but also in considering 5, 6, 7 years down the road when those cohorts of students come up to Mount Greylock. So I think you're right on the money with that, where that general notion of 100 per grade level comes from. And we'll be looking at that a little more fleshed out in over the next couple of months with our own data plugged in.
Great, thanks, Jake and
Thank
Jake.
To follow on to Carrie's question, I guess another way to say it is I think you said both 9th and 10th grade are a little bit smaller. And if you have felt difficulty in offering what you want to offer.
And we have so many teachers that teach various grades, including middle school. So we even have, teachers who teach both high school and middle school, crossovers. So we haven't run into that issue.
Thank you.
Jose.
Thanks, Jake. This is just a quick question about the enrollment numbers. That drop that we've gotten from 8th to 9th this year, is that reflective more of just the makeup of our member towns, or are we seeing students leave the district to pursue opportunities elsewhere? Do you have a sense of why there's such a disparity between that 8th and 9th grade?
I'm not entirely sure. So like our junior and our 11th and 11th grade class is 104, 12th grade class 84. So those are higher. And I imagine, we always lose some from 8th to 9th, we'll lose. I think we lost like maybe 2 more than normal this year from 8 to 9. Typically that's to McCann. So that was pretty typical.
And Jose, to answer your question,
nowhere else.
From a
Go ahead,
slightly
Joe,
different
sorry.
angle, we're not seeing students choice out or move out to independent schools in any numbers that are increasing. That 7-8 group, you've just seen a pretty big boost in residential students. I mean, students who are residents of our towns. And so I think you need to look at the elementary schools as a leading indicator of what will come up to Mount Greylock, as well as what's happening in New Ashford, Hancock, and then what we choose to do with choice and any other students in. So it's certainly not those grades losing students out. It's more of an indicator of who we have living in town within those age groups right now.
And just a really quick follow-up, Joe, because you brought up the school choice. Does this speak to a potential need for having more school choice places at the middle school level to kind of buffer us as students might leave for McCann or other opportunities? Does this kind of information help inform where we put school choice places?
This definitely helps us inform where we open up for school choice, and I think it is school choice in general. When a student is made it to like 7th or 8th grade, they're pretty firmly established with a social group, and in the case of a school that is a 6 through 12 or a 7 through 12, even kind of ensconced within that academic setting. So we really see that taking students in kindergarten, first grade, second grade, third grade, and building our cohorts there. It's not an immediate way to necessarily get where hypothetically we would prefer to be at the middle and high school. But it's definitely the most strategic way and the best way to grow into it. And at the same time, create a much more predictable world at each of the elementaries, where we're not doing 3 sections of this grade level this year for, it creates a much more predictable world, allows us to plan better for curriculum, allows us to plan better for the budget to support the personnel and the curriculum. So, and we can really have again, when we look at the October 1 report and we do the enrollment reports, we can really collectively look at this and think about how we want to approach this moving forward.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Jake. Thanks,
Thanks for
everyone.
the help, Jake and Joe. Appreciate it.
Okay, next up on the agenda is the superintendent report. So I will turn it over to Jake McCandless.
Yeah, thank you, Christina. I know that Mr. O'Connell has another engagement, and so I'm going to ask Patrick if you're okay jumping right in to talk about the middle and high school summer school program, and please do so, and do so with great thanks for once again operating and being the leader of that program. It was a nice job, and we really appreciate your service to kids in the district that way.
Well, thank you very much. I have to make sure that Kristen Hawking, because she did the lion's share of all the work, and of course Mr. Priester, Pat Priester, for all his work, organizing everything. But for our high school division, we had it was from July 5th to August 5th. We offered credit recovery and content review for students. So for the high school students, it was credit recovery, and then for the middle school students, it was mainly a content review. And then so it was in addition to those things, I feel like we offered my colleagues there, Tom, Karen, Marty, Peter. I feel like we offered a safe and supportive environment for the kids to learn over the summer. And actually, I would add in a fun environment for the kids to learn. I definitely had fun with them. It's so actually in addition to it, just an exciting thing. I got to meet a lot of students that I wouldn't ordinarily meet, because obviously I'm in the music wing, and some of these kids were not music students, so it was really fun to get to know them. And in one of them, I even got to take up orchestra. Hopefully this year, she's gonna kind of transfer over into orchestra. So so it was definitely a plus for me. One of the courses we offered. The academic skills classes, which is the one that I offered, which was mainly middle school students, and that was so our day kind of looked at like in the morning we did a daily read aloud, where we finished the book Sweep by Jonathan Auxier, and held discussions each day about the book, and that I let them kind of count that as one of the books they read for their summer reading, so they offered that to their English teachers. It was a great book about Victorian England. It's called Sweep, a story about a girl and her monster. So it's kind of obviously it's a fantasy story a little bit, but it's set during the Victorian era with the chimney sweeps. So we got to talk a little bit about the history of child labor in the Victorian era, and that was interesting. And then we also read some short stories by Edgar Allan Poe and O. Henry after the book was done. We went over a pre-algebra, so I got to review my order of operations, which was great, and so we reviewed other prior content that the kids just needed review on. We did a little bit of geometry with I tutored geometry with one of my high school students, and the kids had a journal. Each day they would kind of reflect on some quote of the day. We took a lot of daily walks, hiking, frisbee golf, wiffle ball, and some music activities. Oh, and last but not least, the kids learned how to play chess, and actually they got pretty good because they were beating me every time. Although I'm not very good, but they got pretty good. And then I just want to say also for Tom Ostheimer's class, he taught English and history. English he taught from 8 to 10, and history he taught from 10 to 12. And they read for English, they read the 57 bus, and that dealt with topics of a crime that affected 2 teenagers' lives. And then the students had to write a persuasive essay on the topic of whether the perpetrator of the crime should be tried as an adult, or whether or not the crime was a hate crime. The students kept a journal, and they wrote daily entries based on prompts that Mr. Ostheimer created. And also they wrote a personal narrative in their journal. So they did a lot of writing and reading and reflecting in that class. In their history class, they examined the modern period of American history through the textbook, The American Vision. They discussed current events each day, and they read a book by the Boston College historian Heather Cox Richardson, and they analyzed the founding documents of our country, the Constitution, the Declaration of Independence. So they got into it a lot, and of course, Mr. Walter was the administrator of the Edmentum courses, which I believe was physics and geometry, if I'm not mistaken. Those are the courses that they were offering on Edmentum, so students were able to make up the credits that they were missing from the year. And I probably should have started with this, but there were 20 students enrolled in the whole program, the summer programming. So I hope that was enough information. I didn't ramble too far. Sorry. Any questions? No? Okay. Well, thank you for letting me talk about it. It's a good book, by the way, Sweep, if you ever get a chance to read it. So.
Thank you, Patrick. And I think Mr. Priester is going to do the rest. Chris Hawking did play a big role in our summer school, but she's also driving home from the Lanesboro after school care program as we speak. So Pat Priester is going to present the rest.
Thank you, Jake. And Patrick O'Connell, thank you for all the hard work this summer, and your enthusiasm just presenting what we did this summer just really reinvigorates me getting ready for next summer. So I'll be brief, Curtis, so we can get to the bills for you. So we ran our grade level programs like we always do in our elementary schools, but we did adjust them a little bit. Typically, students would come in the past for specific academic time, so like maybe an hour, 45 minutes, or something for speech. So we wanted to offer a real program that parents can drop their students off at for a number of hours during the day, and then come back later on in the day and pick them up without having to run back and forth every 45 minutes or so. So we changed the program to a 3-day-a-week format, 4 hours a day. The kids came in for 9:45 and stayed till 1:45. In each elementary school, we had a pre-KK program. We had a grade 1 and 2 program, a grade 3 and 4 program, and a grade 5 and 6. We also ran our related services. Those are more one-offs because students are identified based off their occupational therapy, physical therapy, or speech and language needs. We also had a group that we sent to Camp Russell, a group of about 11 students and I think 5 staff. That was a great success this summer. We did a bus down there. They picked up the kids in Williamstown, ran down, picked them up in Lanesboro, and went on to Camp Russell, and reversing the way back. So that worked out really nicely. So some of the programs we ran at Mount Greylock, as Pat was mentioning before, we had the Camp Russell recreational therapy that we sent our students to Camp Russell in Richmond. We ran the Mount Greylock enrichment programs, a 5-week summer enrichment program that includes academic, behavioral, and social skills with credit recovery. We also ran our related services and academic tutoring based on individual needs for students. And we provided transportation to the high school, from each town. So for our extended year programs this summer, we had 20 students, as Pat mentioned, at the high school. We had 38 students participate at Williamstown Elementary, 26 students at Lanesboro Elementary, and 11 students went to Camp Russell. And many thanks to our staff. And again, I cannot reiterate the importance Chris Hawking had this summer. I mean, there were stories of her finding staff in lines at the grocery store, at the funeral. I mean, we were scoured every corner of Western Massachusetts to fill our needs, and we were able to. And it came at the last minute, but we got it done, and we were able to provide our students with the services they needed over the summer. So we were really excited about that. I actually had a teacher in Lanesboro Elementary stop me and thanked me in the department for changing the program so that students could get more out of it. They could come in, parents could drop them off, they could have a full day. They did field trips, they did social, behavioral, as well as academic skills. But really, I think this summer for those groups of students, the social and behavioral concerns were really addressed. And we were able to provide, some consistency for them over the summer. But she really thanked me for that. I here, in addition to thanking Chris Hocking, would like to thank my team of Vicky and Destiny for helping us get it set up, get it running for the summer, and then help us manage it in the summer. I'd like to thank my peer principals, because without them, we can't be in every building every day. And if there's an issue in Lanesboro, we rely on Cindy or Travis to kind of fill our need up there and make sure we have someone in the building. There's times I call Jake to go to a building to help out a little bit. So we all kind of pitch in and make this come together. And I'm really proud of my peers and the people that I work with every day to make this happen, because it was not an easy task this summer, but we got it done. But that's it. Many thanks to all of our staff and our paras and our related service people, and even the parents and our students for coming in every day, eager and ready to learn. So, any other questions? Carrie?
Patrick, thank you so much. Can you just explain a little bit why it was a scramble were the numbers larger than what you expected? Because I don't remember doing this at both elementary schools. I thought, we would combine and have it at one or the other in the past. That's my first question. And my second question is, were the elementary students solely based on recommendations by their teachers, or could parents sign the kids up as well?
The recommendations for the students in the elementary school are really through the team process, the IEP team process.
Okay.
Our teachers are the first to bring it up, the concern that I think the student may need a little extra support over the summer. And then we start talking about that in our team meetings toward the end of the year. And that's how that gets set. We didn't necessarily have people sign up this summer like we did the summer before. We offered expanded programming to everybody in the district. This is really about our special education students. The high school was a little differently because there is a credit recovery piece, and they do offer, the classes over the summer. So, but as Pat mentioned, we were able to kind of make that a natural integration of each other with the special education services as well as the academic classes, and to make it more of a, beneficial to everybody there. And then to answer your other question, the numbers were about typically what we'd expect. The reason why it was a scramble to get staff, I'll be honest, I think a lot of people were burnt out and did not want to work this summer after the past 2 years. That was a lot of the feedback we got, and people were just open and honest with me, just said I really need a summer off. So we started to explore other options. We pulled a speech and language from Pittsfield Public Schools, as well as an occupational therapist. And our people handed off, their services and goals and all that perfectly. They met with them, updated each student, so they were ready to go on day one.
Yeah, and Carrie, we did, knowing that the summer school programming is run at one school or the other, what we discovered just through conversations with families is that there were families that if it was 5 or 10 minutes from their home, their kids would participate. If it was going to be in a different town, that just added a nuance. So I think we could keep as an aspiration. Maybe we even discussed offering elementary services at the middle and high school to be sort of an in-between, and also, get the students in the mode of, this is where you're going to come together. But we really got some pretty strong indicators that particularly after bouncing back from the couple of school years that we've had, that there was just a much greater comfort with sending their kids into Lanesboro Elementary or Williamstown Elementary. And,
I think it makes perfect sense. I just thought we had maybe different numbers in the past, but maybe not.
Yeah.
I think it does make sense from the family perspective and the child's perspective.
Yeah,
Thank
and it was a little bit of a, it clearly wasn't impossible to staff. And the Camp Russell program actually is very staff heavy. Those tend to be students that that require almost a 1-to-1 ratio of adults to students. And but again, we took a field trip out there from the central office again this summer, and it was magnificent to see the students doing some of the things that they do, kayaking across Richmond Pond, and you know, just really truly enjoying a New England summer camp experience. So it was just really it was tough to pull together, like many great things are, but I'm grateful to Pat and grateful to his team and grateful to Chris Hawking and grateful to all three of the principals and the folks that actually came in every day and did the work, the paraprofessionals and teachers and the custodians for working around the summer schools, which is a real thing. So it was a great effort, but well worth the effort to see the outcomes for kids. Hey, thank you, Patrick. Appreciate it. And thanks for all your work. So continuing, I very brief, I don't even have a slideshow tonight, and then I'll introduce the Big Shuts knows that I dream of being, you know, a high school principal or a high school assistant principal again. So he occasionally throws me a bone and lets me do a principal-y thing. But the start of the school year was overall very positive. Transportation this year has been a challenge. I think that our folks that are transportation professionals are finding that the same hiring squeeze that many other industries are finding. You know, thanks to Dufour, they did get a schedule put together and it's working thus far, and we're grateful for that. Do want to thank specifically our custodians. If you've never really seen custodians at work during the summer or considered what it means to empty out every classroom, strip the floors in many cases, wax the floors, reset the classroom, it's a monumental job. So the indoor work, it just really starts as soon as the students leave, and tends to get done right in the nick of time with usually no more than a day to spare. And then the teachers come back and things have to be moved and rearranged again. And our custodial teams at all three schools, you know, under the leadership of our new lead custodians, Glenn and Ryan and Jim, just a magnificent job. We're very grateful to them, and they had things just really ready for students and teachers so that those two groups could come together and do their work. The outside folks here at Mount Greylock, again, we have a lead outdoor custodian, and he had a very small team this year. If the summer were not as dry, I don't know how they could have spent more time on lawnmowers or getting lawnmowers ready to work, but thank goodness we had a dry summer in that regard, because they were out there dozens of hours a week to keep the fields good. And now seeing students come back in late August and use the fields. And yesterday we hosted the first cross-country meet in the county, and the entire county was here. It was just a tremendous pleasure to mill around and hear people say how amazing it looks, to hear the coaches say that they can tell the difference in the TLC that went into the fields this year. And, you know, even some of the drainage work that happened really made yesterday's meet possible, because the cross-country trails actually drained the way that in some of the spaces they have to use were approached and done correctly, and it just made a difference for kids. And it was a very exciting day to be here to see the whole county here. Grateful to our teachers who helped staff our summer schools. Similarly grateful to the teachers that spent parts of their summer adding to their own personal toolkit as professional educators, and paraprofessionals doing the same. Joelle's going to touch a little bit more on that here in a few minutes, but we had a good start of the school year. It's just a pleasure to see students back, a pleasure to welcome back families. You heard about open houses that are going to be happening. Somebody that, you know, I feel like a little bit veteran now that I'm in my 3rd year here, but I'm still meeting so many new people on a daily basis, and having people who I've met before, but we had masks on, so we didn't realize we'd met before. So that's a pleasure. And just we had a good busy summer here. I'm very grateful to the central office team and to the school-based teams, the secretaries and the principals who kept things going and got us ready with enrollment and the onboarding of new staff. And there's a lot of work that happens in the summer, and with everything good that happens in this district, it was a wonderful team approach. We covered for each other when we needed to, and just so exciting to see our kids come back. And I think tomorrow's the first day of full day kindergarten in both schools, and you know, so we will have full houses when we come back tomorrow, and then get our first full weekend on Monday, and we're very excited about that. I am just going to do a brief introduction. Christina, can I share my screen for a minute? I don't seem to be able to do that myself. If I can, I just want, thank you. I just want to share a slide with the new Mount Greylock staff on it, since Jake was nice enough to let me do this. You know, it seems like we welcomed a lot of new staff to the district this year. I can tell you from the moment that we welcomed them on their first day, and I spent about an hour with them, an hour and a half. We got some really highly energized, compassionate, deeply expert people that chose to join this district and practice their profession here. And so we're very grateful to them, grateful to all the interview teams that did the work, grateful to Jonathan for getting them onboarded, and to Rena Sharma for getting them onboarded and set to be paid. And we're very grateful that these folks were good enough to many of them pick up from different locations altogether and come out and make home in the Northern Berkshires to be a part of our very special school community. So Mount Greylock Regional School, Jamal Ahmed is joining us in the English department. Jamal's also going to be the faculty sponsor for the Mount Greylock Multicultural Student Union. Eamon Lynn Weinheimer is joining us as the math interventionist. And I am just really excited about, he approaches mathematics with a philosophy that is new to me and fascinating to me and makes a lot of sense. And so we're grateful to Jamal and Eamon for joining us. Natasha Admadden has come to us with really a couple of decades of very successful and interesting science teaching under her belt. We're very excited to welcome her. Alexandra Case has joined us in the social studies department. Alexandra is also helping to coach our cross country team. She's excited to be living in Williamstown, and we're excited that she chose to further her career with us. Noah Altman is joining us as our multilingual student teacher. And Noah right now is going among our 3 schools. We actually have posted for a second teacher in EL or multilingual learning. Our student body is such, and registrations in the last couple of weeks of August were such that we wanted to get, we felt the need in order to serve our students as best that we could, and in order to go not only what we're required to do by law, but to go beyond that for the good of our students and for their long-term trajectory. We have opted to post for a new position, and we think that we can do that within our current budgetary structures. Nancy Gata has joined us as a long-term sub health teacher, and we're very grateful to have Nancy come in aboard. And Jean Kirsch, Jean was with us last year covering a maternity leave for Ms. Vanette. And Jean is delightful. She comes in, she's a professional music teacher. You know, I'm sure the students, you know it better than I do, but Jean came in our students did not appear to miss much of a beat. And she was willing to come back and get us through the first part of the year. And everybody's really excited about Jackie coming back after her maternity leave, and Jean is too. But for the time that Jean's with us, we're very grateful to have her and her spirit at Mount Greylock Regional School. And then we hired 3 new paraprofessionals, and we actually have 1 more paraprofessional position that is unfilled at Mount Greylock as of today. So if anybody's listening who would like to serve students and serve their community in that way, please just email any of us. We'd love to have that conversation. But we're very grateful to Samantha Hillard, Jessica Horton, and Sean Purcell for joining us and serving kids in our community through being paraprofessionals. And we know how important that support is. So we're grateful to all 3 of them, and we welcome all 3 of them. And with that, I think my light's going out, or a message it's time for me to be quiet and move on. I'm very grateful to Joelle for joining us here this evening. I think she's got some of the most exciting stuff going on in the district right now to talk about. And Joelle, I'll hand it over to you. She'll need a screen share too, Christina. And
Yes,
thanks
please.
for being here, Joelle.
Thank you.
You should be all set, Joelle.
Okay. Where is it though? Hold on a second. Can you see it?
Yes, we can.
The curriculum director report?
Yes.
Okay. Oopsie, hold on. Okay, so thank you for having me. And this, I really appreciated the exercise of putting together this presentation because it really allowed me to reflect on some of the great stuff that we've been doing in the district that we don't often talk about. So I'm going to get right to it. Oops. Okay. I'm having a hard time seeing. I got to collapse myself here. The first thing I wanted to talk about was we are participating in a pilot program with the Department of Education for a history and social studies program. And we did this kind of quietly last year. Our 6th grade teachers at West and Mary McDonald, the 7th grade history teacher at Mount Greylock, participated in a very small cohort of teachers through the state where we're piloting this program. It's an open source inquiry-based curriculum that's completely aligned to the 2018 History and Social Studies framework. It's developed for grades 5 through 7. They offered the program again this year, and the intent is that next year, these lessons and all of the units will be available for free for all school districts in the state. But this year they offered grants to support the work happening in the schools. And I was so excited because all of our 5th grade teachers in both schools, all of our 6th grade teachers are participating. Everybody, when we put it out there, said, yes, please. So we have teams from both schools participating. We received a $5,000 grant to do this work. It was the biggest in the state. We are the farthest away, so we need the most travel money and hotel rooms, but still, it's an accomplishment. The obligations of the grant and for the pilot are to teach units during a designated pilot window. And before the launch of each unit, there's a 2-day in-person professional development opportunity for teams to come together in one location. I'm going to talk about it on the next slide, but I went with the 5th and 6th grade teams in August, and it was a really incredible experience to be sitting in ballrooms with other educators from across the state, just diving into the units and really talking pedagogy. And we almost never have that kind of opportunity. It was really fabulous. I'm looking forward to the next one. As part of the grant, we have access to office hours and other kinds of support. The Department of Ed is really organizing a thoughtful process here. We have to give regular feedback on lessons, including anything like adaptations that you made or things that you notice as you're teaching that might be missing or ways to make the program program better. And then we have to engage with Tufts, I think is the university doing independent third-party research. And so we'll be doing that this year. The units that we're piloting, the 5th grade is in Lanesboro. Gina Wagner is a 5th grade teacher, and she's committed to doing all 4 of these units. The 5th grade team at Williamstown Elementary feels that they have the American Revolution era kind of down, but they will have access to all of the materials, even though they haven't committed to pilot the actual unit as prescribed. The 6th grade's doing all 3 of these units. The timing, you can see here, the timing is spread out through the year, and we're just about to launch into the first units. In 5th grade in particular, I worked at the PD recently with the 5th grade, and they are starting the inquiry process by examining artifacts and things. And I was able to rent really cool, their suitcases literally, of artifacts from the Bennington Museum, and each of the schools has them. So it's like a mystery artifact kind of thing. And the students are loving it. I was talking to Gina about it today. Some of the highlights are that we attended a remote kickoff, and then we were in person for the 17th and 18th. We also get to work with, we're the furthest west, but we're working with a school in Athol, and then there's one teacher in Beckett who's piloting the program. So they're part of our little cohort. There were so last year's crew gave suggestions for revisions for this year, and the teachers were really excited because there were substantial revisions that were made based on their feedback. So, I mean, I had teachers say to me, wait, that was my comment. Like, I said that and they made a change. And that was a huge confidence boost and really has created buy-in for the teachers saying, okay, our opinion matters, and we're really shaping the history teaching that's going to happen for all children across the state. So it's pretty cool. I have really loved that the discussions around Indigenous and enslaved people focus on cultural preservation, focus on resistance, and kind of the foundations of historic racism. And I was so excited at one point during the PD that I emailed Jake and said, this is really cool. And we both agreed that we're just very proud to be educators in a state that approaches history in this way. And it feels good that we're going to be being true to history. We are working on, so as my support, I'm doing all I can to support the teachers. It's a really heavy lift, this pilot. So I'm doing things like working on local connections. We want to bring in a Stockbridge Muncie connection, and I have contacts with that. I'm planning field trips, those kinds of things that we can do. But it's going to be great. Does anybody have any questions about that before I move on to the next item? I can't see everybody, so just jump in. If not, I'll just keep going. Okay. The second thing, for the second year, we offered an Institute for Teaching Diversity and Social Justice and hosted it at Mount Greylock. Last year, we had about 42 participants. This is taught by Dr. Joshi. She did a workshop for you, for the school committee, so she was back. This year, we had 33 participants. We knew going in that it would be perhaps more difficult to recruit as large a group. Well, we were thinking it would be. It ended up not being, because, you know, people dive in first year, and we reached a pretty large group of people. But this year we had 2 faculty from Lanesboro. We had 10 Mount Greylock folks. Some were teachers, some were paraprofessionals, and 15 people from Williamstown Elementary. And we also invited our North Berkshire neighbors to participate, and we were really happy that we had teachers from and administrators from Clarksburg, North Adams Public Schools, and Pine Cobble. And in talking to our district people afterwards, I had just people unsolicited tell me that they added a lot. It was really nice to be able to collaborate with people they don't usually see. I did a survey, did this last year also. So some information. We had a 73% response rate, which is excellent. 96% of the people agreed or strongly agreed that the course was relevant to their teaching, and 100% said that they left with a better understanding of social justice and diversity. I'm having a very non-responsive, okay. 88% felt better equipped to handle situations that arise with their students, and 88% felt better equipped to incorporate issues around social justice and diversity into their classrooms. Some of the comments, I won't read them all to you, but you can see these. I mean, I really loved that someone said we left with a full plan to implement as well as materials to support our plan. I feel totally prepared to move this work forward in the coming school year and beyond. My eyes are open. I'm grateful for this training. So some next steps, people really are hungry for more. And these are the top comments that I got that were echoed by, 3 or 4 people. People want more time to practice handling difficult conversations, and they want someone to role model, and then they want to practice. So that this workshop really wasn't that, but we're in conversation with Dr. Joshi about doing that going forward. People felt like class was missing from the conversation a little bit. And so we want to focus more on that. Someone said, a couple of people said, we really want more paraprofessionals to be involved, although I was really happy because I think we had 4 paraprofessionals and 2 substitute teachers also involved this year. So that was great. And then people want more work with the curriculum too. This is typically a 5-day class, and Dr. Joshi condensed it to 3 days for us. And one of the things that had to go away was really that immersion into the curriculum and how do you use the social justice standards to enhance the curriculum that you're teaching. And my last, this has not happened yet, but I'm really pleased to say that Dr. Simranjeet Singh is going to be coming to our district in October. He is an author and a teacher and a speaker, and honestly, one of the most positive, calming people I have ever met. I'm really looking forward to meeting him in person. He is going to be here on October 27th and 28th. He is going to do, he talks about belonging a lot, and he talks about his own experiences. His new book is really talking about his own experiences with racism. He is going to do assemblies at the elementary schools. I was really pleased. We were talking about busing maybe the Lanesboro students to Williamstown to do everything together, but we were able to work it out so that each school can have their own assemblies, and there'll be smaller groups, so that'll be great. He's going to be doing 3 assemblies at Mount Greylock. He is going to meet with the GMSU, which will be great. And then on the half day, the 28th is a half day, he's going to be doing a workshop for all of our pre-K through 12 faculty and staff. And there was a little synopsis of that. We asked him if he would do an evening presentation for caregivers in the community, and he was thrilled to do that. And the title of it is Talking to Kids About Racism. And the blurb says, for those of you maybe who are just listening, so many of us want to talk to our kids about racism, but we don't know if it's appropriate, and we don't know where to begin. In this session, Dr. Singh will share his learnings and tips on how we can approach these conversations with our children in ways that are honest, healthy, and constructive. And that talk will be at 7 o'clock on October 27th. It's going to be in the auditorium here at Mount Greylock, and anybody is invited. So we encourage folks to come. We would love that. Just in closing about Dr. Singh's visit, I really want to thank Williams College, and in particular, Shana Adams Al-Gabli and Katsi White. Shana and Dr. Singh are friends from college. So Shana was the one who actually 2 years ago, because we kept delaying this because of COVID, Shana 2 years ago emailed me and said, hey, what do you think? And so it's kind of evolved from there, and Katsi is forever a perfect Williams partner. Thanks to Liza Barrett, because she's been on our planning team and she has been kind of a conduit to the high school. And I didn't put them on here, but I also want to thank Jake McCandless and Joe Bergeron, because every time something comes up like this, where I go into Jake's office and say, hey, what do you think? He says, of course, yes, we have to do this. And then he says, but we have to figure out how we're going to pay for it. And so then we go to Joe, and then Joe is always the one who's like, hey, we could try this. And, some of things are grant funded and some of things are funded by the Williams College Fund and some are from our appropriated budget, but it's really a team effort to make these things happen. And I'm just so grateful to everybody. So that's it. And I welcome questions.
I don't know, Joel, I don't know if Julia, I think Julia, I don't know if you think you were applauding. I think this is fantastic. And what a wonderful, setup and the programming that you described for us just seems really, really fantastic. The question I have, Joel, is about the August programming that was on offer for staff who either had the time or ability to attend those 3 days with Dr. Kiati Yoshi. One of the concerns I had after you showing the numbers of where participants were coming from, and this really became a concern when you shared with us the amazing feedback that you received about how influential those 3 sessions with Dr. Yoshi were to the staff that were there. And you can see, and you can hear in that enthusiasm that they shared with us, an eagerness to practice what they were being taught within classroom settings. Do you have a sense, or are you concerned at all about the Lanesboro Elementary School staff not being able to participate equally in this programming, particularly in August? And as a result, do we have any concerns that, classroom experiences are going to start to become a bit more disparate or distinct as a result of folks being able to engage in this programming in different ways?
That's a great question. I mean, and it's always a challenge to figure out how to offer this kind of professional development to the broadest group of people possible. Ideally, we would have 3 school days where everyone is here and we're doing this all together. And we are talking about how we can do that, but it's a lot and it's very difficult to do. Last year, the numbers just kind of shook out the way they shook out this year. Last year, there were many more people from Lanesboro than this year. Nolan actually asked me for some additional work for staff last year. So he had all of his staff go through a program through Rebus Associates. So it's an anti-bias curriculum. So his entire staff, teachers and paras, all did that last year. So no, I'm not concerned, but I would love to be able to find creative solutions to bring in this particular really rigorous, high impact programming to more people. And we are doing our little surveys. Dr. Joshi and her associate also do, and they are finding similar kinds of outcomes. And I know that when we started on this, talking about this journey really in earnest a couple of years ago, when I think it was you, Jose, was like, how are we going to know if we're getting where we want to be? And so this kind of information is really important. So we're still talking about it.
And if I can jump in, Jose, Kiati and I spent quite a bit of time together over the 3 days she was up here. And that was sort of the primary topic of conversation is, when we forged this relationship with Dr. Joshi, we were looking at it as a for a start, a 3-year commitment to one another. And we've upheld our end. And we're now solidly in year 2, and she has upheld her end by making us really her calendar priority. Getting her son out to Berkeley was amazingly her first calendar priority this August, but we were a close second place. We were discussing that, we've offered this voluntarily to come in and do this over the summer now 2 times. that year 3 may present with a school year's worth of being able to figure this out and troubleshoot it and problem solve it. That I think our initial plan right now is that everybody who has not gone through the training, that's a member of the faculty, and then some of the staff, we are going to try to figure out a way to do it on 3 school days, a September, October, November of 23 school day, and free people up. So if you get an email at some point asking, would you be willing to substitute each for a day? You know, tell us what your grade level preference is. Don't be surprised, because we do see that that's a, you know, we think if we offered it 6 or 7 times, we would get 100%, but we know that we can't wait that long. So we're at a point where we're ready to kind of force the issue and do it on our time. So it's not optional. It's a must. And I would, oh, go ahead, Joelle.
No, I thought you were finished. Go ahead. You finish your thought.
No, go ahead.
Okay. I was just going to say that last year we tried kind of a hybrid approach. So we did 3 days in person, and then we tried to spread out visits through the school year, and we did them virtually, but it was overwhelming feedback from the participants saying the virtual part did not work for this at all. Zoom is great for some things, but for this work, it's really not ideal when you're trying to have really powerful conversations with people. It's much better to be in a room together. So that, you know, that could be a quick fix, but it's not the best option. And we really want to respect the feedback from last year's participants about that.
I just have a follow-up, and this is, you know, I respect and admire and am so grateful for all the incredible work that you put into this, Joelle, and with the support that you have of Jake and the team. The thought that I have about next year, and what I'm curious about to hear your response to, is this, you know, you clearly have buy-in from a certain number of staff across our district, across the 3 schools. Some of them, you know, in some of that feedback that we heard, is that they need more, they want more, they really could use that kind of support. Could we envision a model where there would be, you know, August sessions that really got this cohort, you know, to a place where they could, you know, sort of help deliver programming, you know, in the absence of Dr. Yoshi, you know, folks who could be ambassadors, or folks who could be role models, or folks who can help design pedagogy, whatever that might be, just in terms of, you know, ensuring the broadest and most sustainable impact. That's just one thought that I have. I don't know if that's something that you've all discussed.
I think all options are on the table. We talk about it all the time. You know, another piece of that was kind of an informal thing that happened from the workshop from the summer is I had 2 separate groups of faculty message me about starting a book group. So we're going to have several book groups happening with the book, Why Are All the Black Students Sitting Together in the Cafeteria? And they didn't really realize they were each contacting me. So, and then there are some people I know at Williamstown Elementary anyway. There are some people who are not part of the workshop who are going to do the book group. So there are definitely leaders within our faculty and within the community. And I think we have very overwhelming buy-in. Like it's very positive. And the absence of someone at that August workshop is not a reflection of their level of commitment, I don't think. At all.
No, we had, I would bet if we had, you know, 25 people who were able, we had 35 or 40 who said, oh man, if this were in June, if it were, you know, just with people's own children going back to college, wrapping up, you know, that last minute getaway. So that's why we do want to have an opportunity for people who have just, yeah, there may be a few people who are like, I don't need this, you know, just being honest. And we want to give them an opportunity to do it. And then we want to give everybody else who just really couldn't make a way to make it work over the last 2 years. And we are having, Kathy is coming back up at several points over the course of this school year to do more work with the admin team and to do some touching base with cohort 1 and with cohort 2. And yeah, it was good. And what I was going to say when I kind of interrupted Joelle was just to thank Joelle. This was a magnificently organized enterprise. And so it went incredibly smoothly, and it went incredibly smoothly and was allowed to be positive because the mechanics were all perfect, thanks to Joelle. And including lunch from the Spring Street Market and Cafe, who got rave reviews for 2 days, and Raymuntos, who got rave reviews for day 3. So thank you, Joelle, for organizing this. And when Simran comes, this is his new book. It's really quite a powerful book. It's the beginning chapters are really about his personal story and how he came to need to write this book. But there is a lot of history about a part of the world and an important world religion that I am personally woefully ignorant of, and grateful for the opportunity to read in such an entertaining, powerful, uplifting, humane way about the history of a people and a religion. And so his books will be available for when he's here. If you're somebody that likes to have your book signed, and we're very grateful to all involved, and we're grateful to him for hanging on with us through 3 years of trying to pull this together, and Joelle for remaining a constant presence in his life to please don't forget about us. So
can I just add, Jake, that I'm really happy to see that there's a community component to his visit. We haven't been able to do that with Dr. Joshi. And, you know, we've talked about, I think, for a few years, how do we reach the parents in our community? How do we reach our greater community around these issues of bias and racism? And I was just so happy to see that he was going to be giving a public presentation. So that's great that.
Thank you. That's again one that Joelle envisioned and set up. And yeah, I agree. Parents are hungry for that. They are. Guardians, caretakers, just people in the community are hungry for it. And we're really grateful to be in a position again to provide that. And yeah, so Joelle, thank you so much for that presentation. That is all really powerful stuff. Yeah, so that's it for the superintendent's report for this evening. So thank you all for your attention, your questions, and thank you, Joelle.
Great, thank you. Thank you, Joelle. Next up on the agenda is the Finance Subcommittee report. So I will turn it over to Carrie Green.
Thanks, Christina. So there's a vote on the agenda here under the Field and Track project, and that is really just about committee composition. So it's not a finance vote or anything. So we had the Design Selection Committee recommended the school committee CHA as the designer. That contract was successfully negotiated. CHA is on board as our architect for this project, along with Skanska, who is our OPM for this project for the Field and Track. The Design Selection Committee has done its work. That same committee is on board to move the project forward to its completion, but we need to now give it a new name. So what I'd like to propose is that the same members of the committee, and I'll name them in a second, simply be moved by the school committee to form the Field and Track Project Committee. And this will be the last committee composition vote you'll need to take. This committee will see, as I said, the project through to the completion date, and we can talk about what that is in a minute. But let me just, oh, I had it on my other computer. Let me just bring up so I'll just say while I'm searching for this, that this group has met twice for information and logistics conversations. We met once on August 26th. Yep, August 26th for a kickoff meeting. And then once on September 6th. Those were not posted meetings. It was not an official committee. It was really to talk about what are we doing, how are we doing it, and communication and how best to set up files and folders and take minutes and those kinds of things. So we're in good shape on that front. Sorry, I'm looking. So does anybody, Joe or Jake, do you have handy the minutes? Oh, there, I just found them from Aaron Singer. So the first group of minutes that Aaron took really, again, about the mechanics, lists the folks who were at the table. So unless there are questions about this, I can just read off the names and we can move those forward and then have discussion about it. Does that make sense? Okay. So the names of the folks on this on this field and track project committee would be Jake McCandless, Joe Bergeron, Rob Winook, Carrie Green, Brian Gill, Lindsay Von Holtz. Am I missing anybody? And those folks would be working with the principal, well, the folks who from CHA, and they are Mike Moonen and John Hickok, and our reps from Skanska, John Benzinger and Aaron Singer. So those are all the people who are at the table. The folks that you are voting on are simply the district representatives. So one person from the school committee / finance subcommittee, and then either administrators or faculty members at the school. So that is a motion I would like to make to the school committee, is that we vote to make this committee official.
I'll second that.
Great. Is there discussion? We'll talk more about where the project is at and all that kind of thing once we get this out of the way. Yeah, Julia.
Thank you for all that information and thank you for serving on this committee. Thank you to everyone who's stepping in for this. How will the communication back to the school committee work?
Yeah, great question. So we will be, so they're setting up a Procore system and they're giving access, Skanska is setting up a Procore system. And that is the way that those on the committee will have access to all the documentation. As things progress, there are going to be milestones and decisions that need to be made. And what I've asked for is a calendar of those milestones so that that can be shared with the school committee so that you know when you'll need to make decisions and when decisions are coming up that might involve recommendations from the group that we're voting on tonight or from the finance subcommittee. So you'll get it in a couple of ways. You'll get the calendar when it's developed, they're working on it. You'll get minutes once they're approved. We'll include them in the packet for the school committee. And then you will get executive summaries from CHA and Skanska. that will bring you up to date on what is happening at this committee level. If there's a point in time when you would like someone from the architectural team or someone from Skanska to come to the school committee, that is absolutely doable, and we would just want to plan for that. It's part of the reason to get you that calendar of milestones so that you can think ahead and we can think ahead to when we might want to allot some time on school committee meetings for those presentations. There will also, I'll just put this in here, that there will also be times for more community input where the committee and the school committee might want community input on certain decisions, especially, you know, what is going to be now an alternate and those kinds of things. So we'll want that to come before the school committee so that the community has an opportunity to weigh in if they want to.
Would you mind just reminding us for the end date, we're looking at 2024, right?
So part of that, and we actually talked about this just now in finance, part of it depends for the field. Part of it depends on whether we use sod or seed. And sod will be a quicker use than seed. Seed will take 2 full growing seasons to really be usable. The soonest that we're looking at for a sod field and a track, which is synthetic, would be spring of 2023. Oh, sorry, 2024. Sorry, 2024. I'm a year ahead. Spring of 2024. And if it's seed, it is most likely fall of 2024 for the field. The track and the field, if it's sod, should both be ready in spring for the spring sports of 2024. Sod is more expensive than seed, so we haven't had that conversation yet, but I will tell you that our OPM came in basically saying, you're probably going to want sod because you're going to want to get on that field more quickly. It's a fair point, but it is not their decision, it is our decision, right? So those are the kinds of decisions that the school committee will need to make. Anything financial, you know, what is actually going out to bid, what is a, when I say an ad alternate, that those are the kinds of things, you know, lighting fixtures might end up being ad alternates, although we'd like to include lighting in full lighting in the project. It may not be in the budget to do that when we get preliminary numbers. So those are the kinds of conversations that, you know, we'll want to have kind of more publicly. There are, while you're thinking about the members of this committee, there are outlines or surveys going out to coaches right now to get their feedback on what it is that they would like to see or not see in this project. That feedback will be gathered and collated and talked about at the next meeting, which is 2 weeks from last Tuesday. Yeah. Any other discussion on the composition of the committee? Okay, so the committee, just before we vote, is meeting every other week. Sometimes the meetings are virtual, sometimes the meetings are in person. I'm not sure if there's going to be, I think the next meeting is going to be in person. I think that's the plan. Yeah. All right, let's vote.
Bowen, aye.
Conry, aye.
Constantine, aye.
Curtis, are you with us? he may have stepped away. Curtis?
I think that's Steve Carey.
Yeah, I was just asking Curtis again. So, all right, I'll just go green eye.
Miller, I.
Elfenbein, aye. Sorry,
Elfenbein,
technical
aye.
difficulties.
No worries at all. Okay, thanks. That's unanimous. And thanks to the members of the committee who are giving their time and energy to this project. It's going to be great. I mean, we've got such a good team, and it's it's going to move forward, and that's all good. Joe or Jake, do you have any details to add to what we've already talked about around the project itself? No. Okay. Anything else from finance that folks want to share? All good. Okay. Then that could be it for finance.
Thank you, Carrie.
Yeah.
Okay, up next is the Policy and Governance Subcommittee report. So I will turn it over to Jose.
Thank you, Christina. And I just want to acknowledge my subcommittee co-members, Julia and Carrie, who met recently to discuss what we will be discussing as a full committee. So first up on our agenda is a discussion of superintendent evaluation process and timing with a vote that is scheduled. We at the moment, and Carrie can correct me if I'm wrong, don't have a written policy in place to formally evaluate the superintendent. We, through our discussion with Jake and the subcommittee, have developed a proposal that we would like to share with the full committee. I always look to Carrie for the best way to make this happen. Carrie, would you recommend that we, no one knows what we're moving exactly, so perhaps a discussion of what we might be moving would be appropriate. Is that right? I'm thinking before we make any motions, just have a discussion. Julie's giving me a nod.
Or you could make the motion, second it, and then have discussion.
All right.
The motion is in the minutes or the notes of the policy subcommittee. Is that right? I don't think that was the minutes weren't shared with the school committee.
A specific motion wasn't named. It was the proposed process. So
Yeah.
to the extent that, yeah.
Yeah, so no, the subcommittee has not moved
Yeah.
this. Yeah.
Okay, why don't we talk about the process then, and then we'll put a motion.
So that sounds great.
Okay.
So what we are proposing to the full committee is that this is an annual process that takes place. There's some discussion and there was some conversation about the best timing for this, but at the moment we find ourselves in September in the need to evaluate Jake's performance over the past year as our superintendent. In this timeline that we find ourselves in, what we are going to ask, what we'd like to ask each school committee member is to review and rate Jake or Dr. McCandless on the superintendent rubric, which is a tool that we will use to evaluate all the different measures that we have available to us and that are relevant to Jake's goals and standards over the previous year. So using this rubric, every school committee member will evaluate our superintendent. In addition, our superintendent, we will ask that the superintendent provides a summative document to the school committee where the superintendent essentially provides a reflective narrative about how they have performed over the previous year with respect to superintendent goals and district standards or educational standards of the district. Once that information has been gathered, the full committee then will meet to, this is good that we're doing this before a motion, meet to discuss those results in a public meeting, providing feedback in a public meeting to Jake directly. Some questions that we could use, or that we'd like to pose to the full committee in terms of things that we as a subcommittee made no decision and have no strong statement to, or process to propose, is who in our committee should be responsible for gathering the data, the information from individual school committee members regarding their judgment and perception of Jake's or our superintendent's performance. So at the moment, that's the first question that we do need to sort out before we are to make any sort of motion regarding this proposal.
I would be more than happy to be the collector of those forms and compile them. It was the first question I had to ask you. Who's compiling that information?
So we could formalize this, and that, annually the chair of the school committee would have the responsibility of collecting this information. The second question we had is whether in this case, it would be you, Christina, would the chair attempt to synthesize the information that we gather in this process and provide Jake with a summary of that feedback to Jake? Or do we as a full committee, would we rather to reserve the right for each committee member to provide detailed feedback directly to Jake, both either in written form and or during an open meeting?
Well, can I just qualify that, Jose? I think the question when we talked about in the policy subcommittee wasn't so much what goes to Jake, because Jake he'll see everything anyway, right? That each member's evaluation is a public document. It's more a question of how do we want that summative evaluation to be presented to the public, right? Because that's part of the requirement of this whole process, which is that there be some sort of a public document that is then either read aloud or simply talked about by the committee. That's another thing that we should probably decide. In the past, I was just going to say, I shared my own, and Steve is well aware of this. There are concerns sometimes by members that some comments are chosen and others are not. There's always a rationale for that, but it may just be that this committee would prefer that all comments be included rather than having the chair decide what's included and what's not. Right. Or it may be, as you said at first, to have the chair synthesize it and, give some sort of a summary of the comments.
Right.
And of course, the superintendent gets them all.
Anyway. Yeah. Carrie, I appreciate you clarifying that and helping me to remember better our conversation. It did bring up a question about this summative document and how it gets constructed. Well, that's the question we're on now, but is that something that we would expect the chair to do after all the information has been gathered, is to produce this document? Could we envision that the chair works in collaboration? Well, no. Yes, I guess I don't know, actually, in collaboration with some subset, whether that be the policy and governance subcommittee to produce that document, or is this something that could be, I don't know.
How about the chair of the committee works with the chair of the policy and governance subcommittee to produce that document? And technically the superintendent sees it before it is made public anyway. As long as we're putting all the steps down, it's whether it's required or not, it usually gets submitted to the superintendent in advance of any public discussion.
I like that idea. Julia.
to the extent that we're memorializing this potentially as a longer term process, I might also say the chair or his or her designee, just to give some flexibility.
Okay. If I'm just going to summarize where we are, just to make sure, and then happy for things to change. But at the moment, what we're describing is a process that involves every school committee member reviewing and rating the superintendent based on a superintendent rubric. That information is gathered, collated, synthesized by the chair or designee of the chair of the school committee. The chair or someone who the chair designates, in addition to the chair of the policy and governance subcommittee, would work together to produce the summative document that then would be shared ultimately during an open meeting.
First with the superintendent.
Yeah, so first the superintendent and then ultimately
And
during.
then it would be in the packet of the meeting.
I'm going to ask if anyone would like to move this proposal for a superintendent evaluation process.
Do we need to have the timing piece in the motion? Like, it would be nice, wouldn't it be nice if we're doing this annually to have a set time?
Right. That's a good point. I think, Julia, I have your voice in my head at the moment. I think there was something about even though the time is a little bit tight, that August, September seemed appropriate because folks would be potentially away during the summer. So there might be the need to gather other types of information, perhaps.
Yeah, I think what we talked about in the committee was it should be by October or before, in case in November, the composition of a school committee changes. And this time of year, there is data that has been collected that wasn't necessarily available in June. There could be data, especially if there's like student results or enrollment numbers or, budget, there's just more information. So yes, I think we were saying in the September timeframe, this would happen.
And that then would mean that a month later in October is when the summative document gets presented publicly.
Right.
So this is a September to October process.
Okay, thank you.
And then that's also aligned, just for the record, that's aligned with being able to have conversations when there's a contract to be considered as well, in a timely fashion for the superintendent and for us. So.
We can include, before I ask for a motion, we had discussed as a policy and governance, and maybe this is a part of an existing process or policy, that the reporting of this summative document, the timing of that reporting, could happen in conjunction with the superintendent presenting their goals for the upcoming academic year. And I don't know if we want to make this a part or make that a part of this process, or keep that distinct. Meaning that we would be expecting the superintendent at that meeting to also be presenting.
I don't remember that being part of the discussion. I think they were meant to be separate. I think, again, because there may be new school committee members coming on in November of any given year, you would want the goals to be in November or December even.
Okay.
So
All
then
right.
there's a cycle that's put in place.
Christina, it looked like you were writing things down. I can summarize again where we stand with regards to this policy.
I think you should make an attempt at your motion, Jose. Putting you in charge. Let's hear it.
Would anyone like to move this proposal, this superintendent evaluation process that we are proposing to you all? Julia moves it.
Do you want me to try to summarize what I heard?
Yes, that would be great.
And I'm also leaning on all my notes, but I move that we conduct a superintendent evaluation in the month of September, and this is both for this year and moving forward. That includes first having all school committee members complete the superintendent rubric with a focus on the standards that are specific to the goals that the superintendent set for the year. That the chair or her designee and the chair of the policy and governance committee or his designee work together to compile a written narrative based on the results from the school committee input to present to the superintendent in advance of the October meeting, and then to share with the full school committee at the October meeting.
And the only piece I might have missed, Julie, apologies, in that excellent summary is where we also receive from the superintendent the
his evaluation.
That's right.
His self-evaluation, right. So the summary document will be made up of, will be gathered from the input from the school committee and the superintendent's self-evaluation.
And I so move.
And I so move.
Second.
I'll second it. Oh, no, Curtis second.
Curtis beat you.
Curtis seconded.
You heard me. So it's go ahead.
One question for discussion. So that I think I feel comfortable moving that for this year. And I think, there may be times where we just want different kinds of input. If the big goals of a year are some sort of community partnership, we might want input from a partner in the community, or you know what I mean? Like we may want to just leave ourselves open for that. But I definitely agree this is the right process right now.
Yeah, if we adopt this as our policy, it doesn't mean that the policy and governance subcommittee can't
change it.
Couldn't re-examine it based on,
It's more of a baseline just to keep us, get a starting place. It's worth also mentioning that Dr. McCandless has already done his self-reflection and it's in our packet. He's also done us the huge favor of giving us the focused rubric. And we added to the packet just today the end cycle summative evaluation, which comes right from the DESE website. And that's just the tool that we can use as individuals and that the chair or her designee can use along with the chair and designee of the policy subcommittee to put together the summative evaluation. I think we can all use that tool. That was my assumption, at least, that individuals and the person doing the summative would use that.
Yeah. We should, before folks vote up or down on this motion, if it does pass, folks should know that this process will kick off immediately. And thankfully we have.
That was what I was saying. It's like, we're ready to go. Just gotta formalize it.
So everyone completes this end cycle after this gets voted tonight, except for you, Curtis.
But it's not the full end cycle. It's the specific standards that are in the next document. Right. 1A curriculum, 1E data informed decision making, 2C, that document.
Mm-hmm.
We're looking at you, Christina, because this immediately falls on your shoulders.
I know. I'm looking at the, hold on. We each fill out the 8A2 that is referenced here, right? Based on the rubric, the focus rubric.
Yes.
And then Jose and I will compile them into a single thing.
Right.
Using information, using also the information that Jake provided in his self-evaluation.
Mhm.
Yeah. It should be a short 40, 50-page document that will.
Great. And you want us to do that tonight, but if it's not tonight, when is the date by which you would want that?
Well, I would imagine it will take a little bit to compile. And we need it by our next meeting. So I would try to get it done in the next week. And I am not above harassing people if I haven't received them.
Right. That's so I guess after we make a decision about this motion, we should then have a quick conversation about just that very question about what is the date by which we really do need this information to be prepared for October.
Yeah.
But any discussion about this particular motion? Or any other discussion, I should say.
I have discussion, but it can wait till after the motion.
Okay. It always makes me nervous, Carrie, because they always have something useful to say.
Well,
After the
Julia
vote?
mentioned that it could potentially be tied to a contract, and we've all received an email. I checked with Jake, sorry to mention it, but we've all received an email that our superintendent is interested in a long-term contract since his current contract is up. And I think we're looking at the possibility of a 6-year contract beginning, at the end of this academic year. So it would start, I guess, next August. But that's something that one of the reasons that we're hoping to accomplish this process, in a timely fashion is so that we can then move into that discussion of what that contract might look like and, things like that. And they're not necessarily tied together, but it's nice to have one done before the other. And it's very exciting to think about, having a long-term contract with a.
I think the only thing that will be up for
Successful
negotiation is
superintendent.
how many additional years we can add to those 6. That I think.
Yeah.
How many renewals?
But thank you, Carrie.
Yeah.
Any other points for discussion? All right, hearing none, seeing none, let's vote. Roll call vote in alphabetical order.
Bowen, I.
Conry, aye.
Constantine, I.
Elfenbein, aye.
Green eye.
Miller, aye.
The motion passes, and we now have ourselves a superintendent evaluation policy or process. We have other things to discuss in addition to this. Let me bring up the agenda. Before I move on to the next part of our agenda, Christina, do you have a sense now? Should we have that discussion really quickly to answer that question about when do you need these data? Like, what would be the idea if we were going to meet a month from today? Are we thinking 2 weeks from today? Is it would 2 weeks that wouldn't give us enough time? So we're really thinking about we need to get this information within a week. I'm thinking.
I'm thinking a week. I mean, but if people think that they need 2 weekends to get it done, that's also fair. I don't want to just say 1 weekend. Whatever you think. I mean, I know it's a busy time of year for a lot of people, but
deadlines are motivating though. Deadlines are incredibly
yeah, I'm just thinking it will take a lot of time to compile, but if we say we'd like it by the 19th, that gives us almost 3 weeks to do it.
Can I make a quick comment?
Yes.
is it possible to send some of the information in stages? It doesn't have to be maybe everything all at once. And I know it's useful to see everything so that you can look, but
Steve, I'm sorry, do you mean like part of the summative evaluation form?
well,
Just
I'm just saying in terms of the
parts?
in terms of the information that we're being provided so that we can do the evaluation, rather than waiting for everything to be assembled. If there's something for, say, the first group, to send out as
we
that's ready.
have- I may be missing something here.
I know, that doesn't mean that you can't go back and add more stuff to group one, as you are going later. It might be easier to just do everything all at once, and this might be a bad suggestion, but just.
Are you talking about adding evidence, Steve?
Right.
Okay.
Well, that's a great question. That's a good question. Well, I'd be eager to hear what other folks think. So one thought, Steve, was that the superintendent's self-evaluation report could include data or information relevant to the report, as well as the means to access data, relevant data and information. So that is one way forward. I don't know how exhaustive that would be in terms of how much detail would be provided to us. We thought that if a school committee member wanted to see more evidence, they could contact Jake directly and request it. How does that sit with you, Stephen? Or sorry.
I think we also said that much of the evidence is actually in the packets.
Right.
And
right.
in the meetings. So just going back over meetings to see what's been reported and talked about would be the only thing that would be time consuming, I think.
Yeah, and that's why I'm almost thinking allowing 2 weekends of, so that each individual member can do that, go through that process carefully. It then gives, a couple weeks for us to summarize it. It would be nice if this was in some kind of electronic form.
Right.
It won't come across that way, but.
Can I just ask a question about the evidence question that Steve may not be asking, but felt embedded in Steve's question? What if there is evidence we would like to see that is not identified in Jake's self-evaluation and not found in our board packets? I think that's kind of what I heard Steve ask, but that might not have been Steve's question.
Right, it's in terms of, it may take a while to get some of this evidence, and so some of the evaluation we might be able to start now, and then some other things might take some time to get. And there's the danger, of course, of doing the evaluation when you don't have all the facts at your disposal. But I think we can always just put notes to ourselves to circle back.
So I might suggest that our first priority is to determine if we think we have all the evidence and set a deadline by which we need to not reach out to Jake, but can we send a list of anything that we think we may not have to Christina, so that Jake only has to respond to one of us, not all of us.
Yeah.
And he doesn't get,
Yeah.
requests for the same thing, or, I don't know. I don't want to make this more complicated, but I do want to recognize that maybe there's something we wish we could see. And then the next deadline, like if we could say that is by midweek next week, or, sometime next week, and then we have to do everything to you, Christina, by the following week. But I don't think you want to see versions of my evaluation that change you know, because new information has come in. I feel like collect all the information, then write the evaluation.
So I just have one question about what you've just proposed. Is we're supposed to do these evaluations by ourselves independently, correct?
Yeah.
Is there then any issue with individuals requesting the chair to provide information, because can this be construed as communication with a quorum? Do we have to go through, someone in administration?
An information request, though. So I don't know.
That's fine. I'm just based on things that have happened in the past. I think it's just best to be really clear.
Yeah, I mean, you're not going to ask me an opinion. You're going to send me a request, and then I get the evidence and supply it. Right. So I think that's
right, but it lets you know what a committee member is thinking.
I hear what you're saying, Steve, right? Like if I'm like, I want all the information on this one little area, like one could make assumptions about what I might be thinking. And
right.
I guess the second part of my thought on that is, if there is additional information that somebody has requested, I would like to see that too.
Right.
And so there's no conversation, there's no deliberation happening. There's a compilation of information. I don't think it would be a violation.
I think we're yeah, Jake, this is yes.
I'm going to jump in. Depending on the evidence requests that come in, I may amend my request for a longer term contract. But there is a notion in evaluating employees, and I think, this played out in the several times I've had to negotiate this particular piece with employee unions, that evidence is primarily useful where something is not obvious. And there is a couple, maybe a paragraph or two in my lengthy statement that I would just like us all to be cautious about that. It's not a great use of a superintendent's time to be going through creating evidence for the sake of creating evidence. I did try to pick a couple of key things, but I just want to be clear and be honest that I'm like feeling myself tighten up as I'm listening to this part of this conversation go on, because I know what my schedule is like, and there's some things to me, that ultimately it's like, if I'm not doing this, or you're not seeing it and I didn't provide evidence, then maybe I get it needs improvement. And that's good information for me to have. It's better information for you to have as you're considering, what to do when my contract ends at the end of June. So, I just want to throw in a slight tap on the brakes as we're getting deeper and deeper into how much evidence is going to be expected, because ultimately I answer to the school committee, not to 7 individuals, and having 7 individuals weighing in on perhaps very picayune evidence creates an almost impossible situation for a superintendent to respond to.
And I think that's what we talked about, is that the evidence has been provided, whether it's mentioned in your self-evaluation or provided during meetings. It's that this is what we're going on, at least for this year. And if there are ways that, members want evidence to be collected or displayed or organized moving forward, that's fine, but we're trying to make this a succinct process for this year, and those kinds of other things can be up for discussion. I mean, Julia had some great ideas on different kinds of evidence that could be collected orally or talking to people, but that's not what we're focusing on this year, because we're trying to set a baseline for a process that is going to move forward annually. So we have the self-evaluation, and we have all that's been talked about and presented to us publicly at meetings. And it's the shared evidence that we're focusing on, I think.
Yeah, I really like that. I think it should be a very exceptional circumstance to be requesting more information, and I think this should be used to guide us for the future. And just based on things that have happened in the district in the past, I'm just concerned about communication going back and forth. So I like this idea of we have been provided evidence. Let's evaluate based on what we have this year, and then as we go through the process, think about what would have been useful that we don't have, what was exceptionally useful that we have, so that we know that this is particularly good stuff to provide.
I think so, Stephen. I think this conversation has been really helpful. What I'm wondering is if once we go through this in preparation for next year, I'm wondering if the Policy and Governance Subcommittee could ask for feedback from the full committee about their experience in the process, things that they would like to see changed. Then that could be recorded at least, and then available for consideration for whomever sits in the Policy and Governance Subcommittee, this summer of next year.
I think that would be good, but I would also add to get the superintendent's take, which pieces of information were very difficult to get, which were very easy. And if there are some things that are, a lot of effort to get, but really aren't providing us that much information, there's much better use of district time.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think working collaboratively with the superintendent in this process is absolutely key. Very quickly, Christina, because I don't think we've agreed on what the evaluation tool necessarily will be. I don't think that's a little bit open. Okay, well, and only what I mean is in terms of, can you envision the tool that we have before us that Jake shared with us? Could you imagine that being translated into a Google form of sorts as a way of streamlining the data gathering?
I was definitely envisioning that. I don't know that we have time to do that, but it is a good goal.
Okay, so yes, Carrie.
So this is, sorry, is this a Word document or a PDF that we have in the packet?
It's a Word doc, Carrie.
Word doc, right. So
Yeah.
I think at least if we keep them as Word docs, they'll be easier for you to cut and paste and collate.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean,
That
in the packet, we'll have to resupply them, and for those of us that don't have Microsoft Word, they might have to be supplied to Google Doc.
We could make it into a Google Doc. I can work on that tomorrow and just mess with it a bit and see what we could do. Not a Google form.
Not a Google form,
but
but
like a Google Doc.
I can't open Word.
All right.
Joe?
I'm just saying, it might actually be most efficient to just create 7 Google Docs of the template, and then each of you contributes there. And then that way the copying and pasting and things like that it's really quick and seamless. And also that just kind of it just limits the amount of reformatting and craziness that can happen in translation or in communication.
Just right there, Joe. Whatever you need to get a pay raise. You need to get you a pay raise.
Thank you.
No, this is
My
a very good idea.
was much easier than yours. I'll just put it that way. But Jake, I can work on I can help create the 7 Google, I can help make sure that all is ready tomorrow too.
Good, because that would take me 3 hours and you will have it in 30 seconds. So thank you, Joe.
Curtis, I want to hear the spoken word that is entitled the 7 Google Docs.
It's done after the 12 days of Christmas.
At least, yes.
One more thing I just want to say is, Jake, I really appreciate you speaking up and saying this sounds like, I mean, you didn't, these weren't your words, but just saying this sounds like it's getting a little out of control. I really appreciate you speaking up, and I think where we've landed feels so right. And I just am glad that you knew you could and that you did.
I am very appreciative, and that, joking aside now, part of the reason I am made the request that Carrie alluded to is because I do appreciate the honest give and take, and being safe to express when I'm tightening up and feel that vulnerability. So thank you.
Well, I am going to get us moving along because I think we need to move on. We just have on the agenda, the last remaining item for us is the school committee retreat, where we would like to propose, the process, or at least the beginning of the process of planning for a school committee retreat. I believe the timing of this is January, I think is what we thought would be appropriate, similar to the retreat that we recently had in January. We know that post-November, there may be changes in the makeup and the design of this school committee, but Christina, we were looking to you as our chair, maybe to think about what you might need or any help you might need. We're looking to you to see if you might be interested in leading this process of starting planning for this January retreat.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I would need to know, we sort of had some ideas of what the next segment would look like. And we probably need to have some discussion around that. I would have to go back to my notes from the last retreat to sort of look at what we discussed and what we wanted, what the next retreat was going to look like and focus on, because we had so much that we wanted to cover. We sort of had to choose, a little bit here, and if we want to go to the next space, then we need to probably figure that out. I mean, I think timing wise, we can easily set up a poll to figure that part out, and then it's sort of reaching out, do we want to have a facilitator,
right.
having that discussion, and what that looks like and how we schedule that.
Right. One of the things that that I think we see the need for, that I think January provided an opportunity to start thinking about, and recent survey that all school committee members participated in was an opportunity for the school committee to evaluate itself with regards to how well or less well we were working. So we were hoping that I believe, if I'm right, Julia, that this January retreat could encompass some of that as well. Sort of goals, identifying for the following year, and some opportunity to reflect and do that self-evaluation.
Okay. And do we think, having a facilitator at our last retreat was incredibly helpful. Do we think that we want to go that route again?
Personally, I always find that having a facilitator allows everybody to participate in the role that they play, rather than having to wear multiple hats. And effectively, if a school committee member is facilitating, then how they facilitate could even be called into, it could be confusing. So I personally would advocate hiring a facilitator again.
Okay. And who would I work on that with, Jake? Because I don't even know how we found that facilitator last time.
Julia.
Connection with Julia. Yeah.
That was Julia. So,
Christina, I'm happy to be if you and I want to work together to try to plan one with Jake, I'd be happy to do that.
Okay.
And maybe we say we'll come back in October with a proposal for how we suggest what we expect for the retreat.
I think that's a great idea.
and I think in this is the hope that this becomes something we do annually, this school committee self-evaluation and goal setting for the upcoming year.
Mhm. Mhm.
Anyone have a point to add to this discussion about the retreat?
I mean, timing wise, in terms of evaluation and goal setting, will line up with superintendent goals and
Yeah.
school goal, like district goals too. So I think that's great.
All right, Christina, I think Julia, I might have been on the verge of saying something.
I just wonder how quickly we can start to just get a date, since we're in September, sometimes calendars fill.
Well, I mean, for the committee, we can probably send a poll out soon, but then
Yeah, all right,
we have the facilitator piece.
right.
So I don't know if we want to capture a facilitator and get those dates first and then send out the, poll. I don't know what Stacy had some magic that she did. I don't know.
Why don't we meet and map that out?
Yep. Okay, good.
Okay.
I think that is it from the Policy and Governance Subcommittee. Thank you for your patience.
Thank you, Jose. Next up, we have the Business Administrator Report, and you now have negative 25 minutes, Joe.
I have 3 purely informational items, and I'm cognizant of the fact that it's the 6 of you and then a few thousand people watching through Willinet right now. So I'm going to keep this as efficient as I can. And Curtis, if you and I don't lock eyes, I totally understand. The other screen is right over there. Start of school facilities update. So there are 2 headline items with a lot of supporting things. The supporting things are the staff and contractors did a great job on floors, on renewing windows where needed, working on facades of buildings where needed throughout the summer. Lanesboro Elementary School, the boiler project that you're all well aware of is on track. It's on track in a way that the boiler that is going to be replaced as soon as the replacement arrives is being put back together so that it can function as best it can until that new boiler arrives. The new boiler arrival date is still late January, early February. So we feel cautiously optimistic that this plan will work well. But at the same time, we're all going to need to will it a little bit as well. We don't need a lot of super cold days in December and January that burden our boilers maximally at Lanesboro Elementary School. And then at Williamstown Elementary School, the project to replace the condensers and piping and coils due to the long-term problems that those units have had over the years, that is hopefully coming to completion at the end of this month. If you recall, we had scrambled to get things ordered back in March and April. We took receipt of most, but not all, of the condensers and coils late last month. The final condenser and coil set should be arriving this coming week. Pittsfield Pipers, the contractor on the project, has been doing a great job of making as much progress as they can. So at this point, they're really just awaiting that final set so that they can get everything put in, configured, and operational. But so far this school year, we've benefited from a relatively temperate environment at the start of the school year. So questions on that? Jose?
Apologies if this was discussed at the last school committee meeting, but I was just wanted to hear from you, Joe, about what the agreement looks like between the district and the town of Lanesboro with regards to payment for for the boilers and the cost of their installation.
The town has in writing pledged to fulfill its obligation to pay for those boilers. How it will fund that, exactly what money it will use is the only thing that is the question that will be determined by the special town meeting. So that's where we stand. And they've got some steps that they need to take to be able to get there. Anything else? All right. Second thing was the grants update. I'm just going to give you the federal grants update that should be fairly quick, cut and dry. So late in the summer, every year, the state announces the federal grant allocations for those major for the major annual every year type grants that school districts across Massachusetts receive. This year, that federal grant set is significantly pared down from what we've seen over the last 2 years because we don't have all of the special COVID C preface type grants that are flying around. So this collection of 5 is our standard set that we receive annually. In dark black in one column is our FY23 allocation. In gray to the right of that represents what our FY22 amounts were. Our allocations are all based on a special blend that the student or that the state does for each grant related to need, ability to use, all of a blended kind of set of parameters. So we're holding pretty steady within this grant set with what we have within special education. We see a slight decline there in the 240 grant, but it's really all fairly steady and stable coming from the federal government. Along with this, we have numerous other grants that we are applying for, that we've received, that we have continuing from FY22, like the ESSER 2 and 3 grants. So those are continuations, whereas these are our new federals for the year. As we move into October and November, I'll provide a more detailed, kind of more comprehensive look at exactly where we stand and what we're planning on using versus not using this year to keep for next year. But right now, this is what we've got coming in that I'm really appreciative that Joelle Bruckner and Patrick Priester are our leads in terms of filing all of the paperwork as it relates to exactly who we are as a district, how we promise to use these funds, and so on. And so they're the domain experts there for special education and for the title grants respectively. Any questions on this?
Joe, you may have said this, and I apologize, but are the grant numbers based on previous year needs, or are they like?
Pretty much everything the state does is based on the trailing year's data.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, thanks.
Because they're going based on our October 1 numbers, our other reporting that we do throughout the school year. All right. So with that, I will stop sharing. Final bullet, MSBA update regarding the Mount Greylock Regional School Building Project. As you all have received via email informationally, the MSBA completed its process, taking us through the audit, the board approving the final payment amount. Just shy of $1.6 million is the final payment that hopefully we'll actually receive tomorrow, which is wonderfully prompt. And as usual with the MSBA, they've been a wonderful partner throughout the entire process. With that $1.6 million coming into the bank, It then leads us to the question of how do we want to execute our final long-term borrowing. So we've been doing short-term borrowing to get ourselves year to year as we wait to figure out exactly how much we will need to borrow in the long run. We as a school district, back when the building project was first authorized, were empowered by the towns to borrow money within certain parameters, certain amounts. So you as a school committee coming up over the next few months will be able to make the decision as to exactly what path we want to use to execute that final borrowing. But as a preparatory step to make sure that we continue to be good collaborators with our member towns, the Finance Subcommittee is going to be hosting a meeting on September 22nd, so 2 weeks from today, at 4 p.m. with a number of representatives from each of the town's finance committees, as well as the school committees, school building committees, finance committee members, Hugh Daly and Steve Wentworth, who are really with the project throughout its entirety on the finance side. So we will have a meeting on the 22nd as a part of the finance subcommittee meeting to just talk through with Unibank, our bond counsel. Here are the options that we have. Here's the timing that we can utilize, and we'll start to narrow down what the finance subcommittee will recommend to the full school committee as a course of action for that final borrowing. I feel like that was a very fast monologue, but I think I got everything you needed.
Joe, do you have any sense of when the school committee would need to make a decision about the borrowing? Like how soon that's coming up for us?
I'm hopeful that in the October meeting, we'll be able to identify, to provide a clear course of action that might not lead to the actual borrowing happening until March or April of this coming year. But I think that we can probably be well ahead of the game in terms of knowing our options and knowing the best option for both of our towns.
Okay, thanks.
That's it. That's all I had. I'll turn it back. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe. That was quite efficient.
Joe, I'm locking eyes with you.
What's the score? Sorry.
I have no idea.
Okay, next up on our agenda is the MASC November meeting delegate selection. This is something that happens annually. It's a 3-day conference. It's hosted by MASC and MASS, Massachusetts Associations of School Committees and Superintendents. For those of you that don't know the acronyms drive me crazy. It's been held in Hyannis forever. Last year there was like a hybrid version of it. We sent Carrie and Ursula was a backup delegate. And so we need to choose that delegate to go this year. I believe Carrie has said that she is planning on attending. I don't know if anybody else on the committee is planning on attending. Everyone's welcome to attend. So we do need to select a delegate for this year. Julia.
I move to nominate Carrie as a delegate to the MASC. And I wish I could attend, but I am unfortunately out of town that week.
Second.
And Curtis seconds. Any discussion? One thing I want to ask, well, I don't know if I ask this now or after, but what things Carrie is planning to attend during that meeting, because there are all these different amazing topics. I don't even know how you choose if you put them all on a dartboard and throw darts, because there's so much great information being provided. But any other discussion?
I do think in response to that, once the schedule comes out, I'll have a better sense of what I'm planning to attend, because some things are concurrent. But I do try to attend things that are relevant to the district. And I had planned to debrief with Jake after attending last year, and we never really got around to it, but I did, deliver snippets of information at various committee meetings and subcommittee meetings. That said, I would love feedback, as we get closer to the date, if there are specific things that committee members would like to get more information on. The schedule will be up on the MASC website at some point. And then, maybe at the October meeting, we can have a very brief discussion, or people could just send me, their thoughts. I don't think that's, well, I don't know if that's deliberation, honestly. So.
Yeah, I mean, we can, why don't we plan on putting that on the October agenda, and just remind everyone to go and keep checking, because I think we have a link to it in the packet. It has, a general guide, but that schedule should come out, and yeah.
And Jake, do you go as well?
I am going this year. I did not attend last year. I did several sessions virtually last year, but I am going to go this year. And if anybody wants to go to get it, you can go for one day. There are people that it was easier. I do remember one time it was in Worcester. That was like in the early 2000s, and they moved it right back to the Cape the next year. But you can, if anybody's ever interested in future, you can go for a day, you could go for half a day. You don't have to attend the whole thing, but I will be going this year. Yep.
Okay, any other discussion? All in favor?
Bowen, aye.
Conry, aye.
Constantino.
Elfenbein, aye.
Green, aye.
Miller, aye.
Thank you. And thank you, Carrie, for taking your time to do that. I won't talk about my negative ET balance at work right now. I definitely can't go for that reason. Okay. So, and just for note that the topics are in the agenda. So if you want to go back and look at them and refresh. Upcoming meetings, the September 22nd Finance Subcommittee meeting was already mentioned. There's also one October 6th. The next school committee regular meeting is October 13th. Policy and Governance Subcommittee is October 4th. And Field and Track Project Committee is September 20th. Any questions there? I do not have any other items for discussion. Does anyone have agenda requests for our next regular session? Curtis.
I don't know if this would count as a that kind of request, or what kind of request this is, but I asked for attendance data on the opening week of the 3 separate buildings to sort of compare to data from my own district and data that I'm getting from other districts, because we are seeing a high number of student absences in our experience of the first 3 weeks. We had no high numbers in the first week, but then we saw a pretty steady increase over the second week into what is now our 3rd week. And so I was hoping to get similar data from our district. I just don't know who the point person would be to go to for that.
Curtis, just Joe and I will pull that. And we had 3-day week this week, 2-day week. So, but we can still look at it, and then we can send it to you, like next. Also look at next week, which would be our first real full 5-day week. Because I think you piqued everybody's interest when you started asking about that. So we'll be happy to report that back to you. And we'll just send it as a for informational purposes only to the full committee. And then if we want it on an agenda, we can do it. But just as a FYI, we're happy to send that out.
When you send the data, if it's possible, it would be interesting to see not just, what the numbers are, but, how many people had 0 absences, how many had 1, how many had 2.
Yeah, we can take a couple of different slices and dices of it.
Yep,
Steve.
exactly.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. Yep.
Great. Any other agenda requests? Hearing none, would somebody like to make a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Curtis moves. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Julia seconds. All in favor?
Bowen, I.
Conry, aye.
Constantine, I.
Elfenbein eye.
Green eye.
Miller, aye.
Thank you. That motion passes and we are adjourned at 9:01 p.m.
Good night, all.
Everyone,
Thank
good
you,
night.
everyone.
I don't know who sets the time estimates on our agenda, but that totaled out to